Inforunners, I'm Execute. Yes, Chris, I am awake. And Algared's here as well, and he's awake. Surprisingly.
Well, I'm awake because I've been chatting to them.
Yes. Oh,
Chris is there enjoying a wine and, you know, the evening and getting ready for some ship talk.
I think after your lateness last week, it was a fucking cheek that you call me 1 minute before I call you normally. If you're late. No, that was fine.
Hey, my clock is saying it was 5:02.
Oh,
That's when you call me. So
Sure. Yeah. That explains why you're always late. Your clocks are so early. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Hey, it was done in jest as well, but also just in case, you know.
It's fine. It's totally fine. I'm just giving you shit, you know me.
Yeah,
right. The Eye of the Storm. I was saying Algared. I was really struggling with the title because I came up with a really clever title, and then for cancellation reasons, I had to get rid of it. So I won't tell you what it was.
If he went with it.
Yeah, maybe we might do it next week or something if I can really. I was just panicking, and Algared wasn't here to bounce it off, so I was just like, oh, this could be bad, so I'll just leave it.
And what did I say when you told me about it?
You thought it was fun.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Yeah. So maybe it was all right. But yeah, Eye of the Storm is reference to the fact that we're kind of in that quiet period of the year. You know, we've just hit July. August is also quiet as well, as we then move into the ship showdown in September. And then, you know, kind of that's the off to the races part as we go to CitizenCon. Obviously, this year's going to be very different for me and Algared at CitizenCon, and we've got a lot of things to do before then. We've got to make sure all this stuff that we've brought and stuff is only just starting to come together now, because I've had to buy a little, like, I had to take my own money, and like every fortnight I can buy another thing, and I'm getting to the down to the last kind of thing. Algared got one. So we had the last kind of things we really need is a mobile Wi-Fi router. Algared's got one there. I'll probably show what it looks like. About, I don't know, $150 to $200 type of thing.
Just so happens I do have it handy.
Oh, it's just essentially it's a battery pack that takes a SIM card.
It doesn't look anything fantastic. It's just a little black box.
It looks like a phone. When you first showed it to me, I thought, why are you showing me a phone? But it's not a phone. It's got like a little touch screen that's black and white that you can doesn't even fill up the full screen. It's only like
it's like a little. You can see the little square.
That turns off before you put it up.
Yeah, I know.
You're gonna have to put it up pretty quick to show people. There you go. Yeah, it's pretty tiny.
That's how big the little screen is. So it's very small. It's touch screen, but that will be.
Well, it's the secret. It's the secret to whether it works or not. And we are going to probably use you guys as guinea pigs a little bit, and try and do some test things, because depending on how powerful they are is what we can pull off. Because we did find someone that was kind enough to lend us a laptop. So now we've got the use of a laptop. We might try and do some stuff at the venue rather than we were going to send it off site to someone and get them to do it. But obviously that comes with other problems, because then I've got to teach someone how to use my entire interface that I've built. Algared has seen it, and I reckon even Algared would. I reckon I could be able to pick it up now. He's seen it enough to understand what's going on. But trying to teach it to a new person.
I know what you're doing on your interface, but there's lots of little buttons that you're always pressing, especially when we've got Twitch and YouTube.
Well, yeah, I got like a stream deck set up and stuff like that. So you get my whole point without going too deep into it. I've got to teach it to someone else. And Paul picked it up, but actually Paul rebuilt it on his end. That's how Paul ended up doing it. So
no, I don't like that. I'm changing it to this. But I think like once you've got the idea of what's going on and the buttons you've got to press, then you go.
It's pretty simple. It's
for you.
Yeah, it's not rocket science once you know what you're doing.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of like we're going in uncharted territory, literally. You know, nobody's ever tried to like we've had people use a phone and do like a stream for the phone floor, but it's not the same quality. It's not the same thing. We're actually taking cameras, and we're going to be actually trying to do it from on the floor. We'll see how that goes.
But even if it works, we're still not going to take. We're not taking our cameras into the panels themselves.
Yep.
The goal is we do what we normally do.
Yeah.
Have a panel up by itself with no chat, and then do discussions or stuff.
Which is kind of why we need someone that's off-site doing it, because then while we're in the panels and stuff like that, the other thing we're probably going to do is alternate a bit, so we've actually got some free time to do stuff as well. So like, essentially, not like I do one day, Algared does the other day, but like alternate between the panels and stuff like that, and obviously pull in people that are there as well. But yeah.
But some of that is also in flux. Like they're ideas and thoughts we're kind of tossing around, but it's in the same. You know, in terms of getting the equipment and stuff, I'm in the same boat. I'm getting bits and pieces as we go.
Yeah.
You know, I help you. You were doing a lot of the checking around and buying stuff and testing it, and going, no, that's no good.
Yeah.
I said, I was waiting until you kind of settled down.
Yeah.
But then I've been going bits and pieces and getting it as well. So
yeah, because yeah, you have to, and essentially, yeah, I've got more free time than you, so I've had the time to do so. But I've had to return a lot of things too. Like I'd buy things on Amazon, they wouldn't work out, I'd return them and stuff like that. Just trying to refine and get it down. We ended up making it very lightweight. That was the kind of way we went in the end. So, yeah, it was.
We kind of went build what we need, and I went, okay, now how can we make it lightweight? And and I can understand why people haven't done it, because just the expense in going to building a rig just to be able to do the camera was quite expensive. You know, it was probably just for the bits and stuff to go around the Osmo 3 was, you know, $200 or $300. You know, when you put all the bits and pieces together.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah. In answer to your question, Chris, about have I got a SIM card for it yet? No, I'm going to be ripping my SIM card out of my phone and playing around with it that way.
Yeah.
Initially.
We've also looked at, we've had a few people in the UK look at plans and recommend plans for us. And there are, I think the plan I've looked at, there's two plans. One's like £18, the other's like £38. So I don't know. We're also going to be there a little bit. I'm going to be there like 2 weeks before. So I'll probably get that because it's for the month and test one of those and see how they go. And yeah, make sure that everything's up and running beforehand. But yeah, the last thing is literally getting the people together to make this work now. We've got all the stuff. It's just to see if we can pull it off. But yeah, I don't know.
Living Respawns has a question for you. It's going to jump the queue because it's literally related to what you're saying. It says, what provider are you looking for, or which provider are you looking at?
There was two. One started with S, one started with E, and I've honestly forgotten already. They were the two that I was looking at. I remember the prices more than I remember the names.
And who said it? And Meet Your Maker says, on Twitch says, might try to get a 5G hotspot.
That's what we're doing. Yep.
That's basically what we're doing. And
that's what Algared's got in his hand.
That phone modem is basically, once we've got that will be our hotspot. So we're hoping that will kind of give us a really good signal at the venue, to our devices, whatever we're using, enabling us to do the quality.
Or it could all go to shit and this won't work at all. So we'll see what happens.
But it could all go to crap, and we could be up here. But that's kind of what we're looking at. It's just the setting up the gear has been probably a lot more expensive than I think either has really.
I'm going to be honest. If I did it over again now, I would have just gone to Citizen Gun. I would have just gone and bit the bullet. It's cost that much extra money. But if we can pull it off, it'll be the first. But I think it may be one of the last times anyone ever tries to do it. I can see why people haven't. Like, there's this perception that YouTubers and streamers are like mega wealthy and they make heaps of money. Yeah, they are if they've got really big channels. That they say that you need about $100,000 to live on. So if you actually look at that from Star Citizen terms, it's probably Board Gamer and more the only two that are making enough to live off it, type of thing, right?
That's just to pay the bills. So if you want to really, you need 200,000 or 300.
So It's so most streamers that go there, you know, if they're living off what they're doing, which you and I are not,
No.
they essentially you know, they also don't have the money to buy this gear. But yeah, you know, it's I can see why no one's ever done it. That's what I'm trying to say.
And as you know, like for us, CitizenCon is probably our busiest time of the year. It's certainly where we get the most ad revenue and other stuff. And so if we're at CitizenCon and we're not doing anything, and this would go for any streamer.
Yeah.
The income aspect at that point disappears. So,
well, it's why certain streamers don't go to CitizenCon, put it that way, because they make so much money not going. Why would they go? You know? So yeah.
So Leighton Sketch says, get a Cradle Point cellular router with 4 SIM cards and a 2+2 configuration.
Damn.
Run active with 2 in standby. Get SIM cards from different providers so that you can shift from network to network.
I don't even know what that is. Cradle Point cellular router.
I haven't even heard of that, but damn,
that sounds fancy pants and expensive.
That does sound very fancy.
That sounds like $1,000. Because I'm going to be honest with you, some of the 5G routers we looked at here in Australia were $1,000, and they didn't actually provide anything over the one that Algared has in his hand. And the one that Algared has in his hand, I think it came from Amazon, but it was from like Amazon Germany, and it was so much cheaper than anywhere else by like $300. The same product would be $300 more expensive in Australia. And that's why we brought it that way. Like, Algared talks about how much things cost, but he also knows that I got it for so much cheaper because I shopped around and then passed him the cheaper prices and stuff. So yeah.
And the other thing is that one of the reasons we also ended up like we were tossing up over this one because the 2 you were looking at, one had lots of good reviews. This one didn't have any because it was fairly new, but you ended up saying we'll try this one because this is also used by our main telco. So.
Real quick on topic, but wouldn't make any sense to them. Do you remember the little clip thing I was telling you about that I ordered instead of the other one?
Yep.
That was cheap. The best. Yeah. Just the best.
That's all I'll say.
So I got Algared to buy this clip thing that's about $30, and then I had a brainwave of this other clip, and it's like $5, and I'm like, oh yeah, it works brilliant. But Algared's already brought it, so and Algared threw the box away. So I'm returning mine, but he can't return his. So yeah.
He's, you know, and I was holding off buying stuff until he settled in. Yeah, this is it. Right.
And I think twice now after I said I was settled, I've unsettled again. So.
And then I do it and he goes, oh yeah, I've changed my mind.
Yeah. Well, again, it's the advantage of having time. I just keep shopping around.
Yeah. So anyway.
We've only got one question. This is going to be a really short stream.
We've got a crap ton of questions because I took questions from the premiere yesterday and also from a chat generated from the video. So we've got about 10 questions.
How did that go yesterday? Because I was absolutely zoinked, as you know.
Yeah. Well, there's 10 questions in the chat that grew out of that video. So it's going to go okay.
All right.
So
bot is up. You want to get your question? Now's the time. Again, remember, we are in the eye of the storm because it is the quiet period. So I do know you guys are more the hardcore audience and you tend to not have as many questions, but again, it lives and dies on the questions. All right, Algared, take it away.
So question number 1 came from our premiere yesterday of the ISC on jump points. And so the whole discussion for the first probably hour is going to be on jump points because we've got about 10 questions or so. So the first question was from Nazgul9. Nazgul asked, is this another nail in the coffin for exploration ships like the Carrack, where jump point mapping was a gameplay option? If transient jump points are temporary, what is the point if their time expiry is also unknown?
I think, as I said in the video yesterday, the transient jump points are for explorers. It's very obvious. Yep. It's so you can go looking and finding new ones. And I think the other part of that I also said in the video was there is clearly something like something to do with scanning where you'll analyze the jump point and you'll be able to tell how long it's going to be alive for. Because if you find it and you've got no way to tell how long it's going to be there, and you go sell it to someone and only lasted for 5 minutes, they're going to be pissed. But if you, again, that's going to make it more valuable. If you find something and it's going to last for a month, it's going to be way more valuable than something that lasts for a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think you're right, and I think possibly those dedicated chips with a jump point equipment, for detecting and picking up a jump point, are going to be better at that. But the other thing with the Carrack and the Aquila, with their jump point mapping sensors, is they were also for navigating the jump points. So I would expect even through the main jump points, they will reduce that distortion damage that you'd be taking to your jump drive.
Well, just thinking about what you said there, there's a couple of things, like how does navigation jump point sensors differ from normal sensors? Can you see further down the wormhole? Remember you and I were talking about the different branches and stuff? Maybe they are specialized at actually finding the multiple paths. And I know you'll remember as well, they talked about recording your jump points and selling them to other people so other people could automate the jump point process, and just essentially your ship would automatically fly. So if you're really good at navigating, right, you could record your path, sell it to other people that couldn't do it because it was too hard, and just automate it.
Yeah. And I think that'll be the type of thing that certainly comes in, I think, with the transient jump points.
Yeah.
And I think that the big ones we've got at the moment, certainly
what did they say?
A lot of the things they've put in place make sense because they have a permanent.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the terminal was. It temporary and semi-permanent? Is that the wordage that they used for the transient ones? And I was like that afterwards. I said to you that it was vague as fuck.
It was vague. It may have been something like that. I'd have to go back and read, but it was like he went on to say it may last only one jump, so that's going to suck if you go through this temporary jump point, zip through, go
Thank God it dropped me into the black hole system, and it was the only time I could come through, and now I can't get back. Yeah.
So there is that aspect. I hope.
Well, here's the other thing. If I asked the question then, if you can tell it's only going to last one jump and you don't know where it's going to go, are you either going to bother?
Do you know what I mean? Get around that, because if you just find a jump point that's nowhere in location, you're going to be saying, "Do I risk it?" And maybe that's risk reward. You jump through this jump point and then massive reward because you get somewhere.
Maybe it's valuable to a criminal though, because then they can escape and can't be followed.
Well, there are stories where systems were found by criminals and they're not reported because they'd escaped being chased. But I also have a feeling that some of the aspect of those transient jump points are going to be within a certain distance of the main jump point.
Yep.
And so, if you find one within 100 kilometers or 10,000 kilometers of the Stanton jump point, then probably that's going to be a Stanton transient jump point. I think it'll something like that, but that's me guessing.
Do you know what I was thinking too last night? Like, how they kind of described it as like a shotgunning effect, right? And
when you're leaving,
that's how they should have used to explain it, that you couldn't see coming to the other end. Because if you think of two shotguns firing at each other, right? All the pellets realistically are highly improbable to hit each other, but they will both hit the other target. So you get my point, right? So they're both going to get to the other system, but when you fire, you're essentially doing that. So you're not going to see other ships anyway. So that actually explains like once I worked that through in my head, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense actually, that you wouldn't see other ships. In fact, if you think about it, you're not likely to see the ships you started with either, because you're, again, firing in different directions. But it's a little different.
Well, I think because the ducks in a row are going through at that same instance, then you probably would see them because you've all entered that same point.
Well, not if it's like a shotgun though, because you would all slightly be diverging.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's just I still cannot get away from the stuff I saw in that video. It sounds like it's some kind of technical limitation where they're trying to send people in groups. Again, if they're only essentially, because if you actually work through what they said, they're only sending people every 3 minutes from one server to the other. That's essentially what they said.
Well, I got the impression that they were saying the trip will take 3 minutes, and I got the my impression was that the time they're giving for despawning.
But they're sending but they're sending you in groups. That tells me that they're sending. Like, I don't know. That was the impression I got. Essentially, if you think of it like a shuttle leaving Horizon or one of the other places, or a tram, essentially there's one coming every 3 minutes.
Yep. But I also get
if you think about that, that actually makes a lot of sense, because that's how all the shuttles work. If they're going at regular intervals, that allows you to transfer between servers as well.
And that's what is, and that basically, when we're doing a shuttle ride, I gather that the shuttle ride is actually getting rid of the old information, caching the old information, and reloading in the new information.
So essentially, it takes about 3 minutes to stream between servers. That's what I'm hearing.
So it's going to take about 3 minutes to get rid of the old info and add the new info, and that's something we always knew. We always knew that they were going to avoid the loading screen idea by doing things like landing. You'll remember the very first Area 18 landing with the Connie going down with ATC taking full control of a ship.
Yeah. Well, that's what it feels like, doesn't it?
And that's kind of like that. Yeah. What they're hinting at here. But that whole trip down, even though you could walk around your ship, was the loading screen of base down to the planet. So I don't see the difference in it's basically, in a sense, it's what they said in the past. It's just a different skin and a different look, which is kind of weird.
I think the last thing I'd like to see is when you kind of come out of if you hit the edge and come out of it, I'd like it to do like a spin out or something. And damage a ship more. But obviously that'll come with time. It's tier 0, but maybe it won't. But if they can bump your ship back like they were doing off the jump point, that means they can control your ship, which definitely means they can throw it into a spin.
Yeah. So I kind of hope that the Carracks and the Aquillas and any ships that have those kind of jump point mapping sensors or jump point sensors, A, can possibly see more, but B, it's going to help mitigate the impact of that distortion damage. And if they do mitigate distortion damage from a jump point, here's a thought: would it mitigate damage from distortion weapons in general? So there's a little conundrum or thought for you, CIG, if you're here and ever paying attention to this a little bit.
It also made me think, can you build more for distortion damage so you can kind of essentially extend the time you stay in? Because, think about it, if it's a really dangerous route, or you may need to take hits to stay in. If there's a particular corner and it's really hard to avoid something, it's better to take a minor hit here so you don't take a bigger hit on the next bit. Again, if you've been pathing, because this is the other thing, if it's minimal uses, right, obviously you're not going to even bother mapping it, because if you have to run it 3 or 4 times to map it, nobody's going to use it. But if you know it's going to be open for a month, then you'd probably go to the effort of mapping it, because then it makes it more efficient for others. So it's going to be really interesting, actually, because I like the fact that there's different jump points for different reasons. I would if you, like you and I talked about with the 3 different sizes, right? You had the small ones, which basically covered the small and medium ships. Then essentially you had one for kind of like the larger ship. Now, when you say a larger ship, that's actually 2 sizes. So if you actually look at it, it's like the landing pad sizes. We worked this out. So you had the 6 landing pad sizes essentially. And basically, I'm talking about the first 2 would have been for small, the next 2 would have been for essentially medium jump points, and the last 2 would have been, which is sub cap and capital, would have just been for the large ones. So now it looks like if you're going to 2 sizes, essentially the top, my brain's starting to going to top 3, bottom 3. I don't know if that's where they're going, but that kind of makes more sense to me. Because that would say the biggest ship that could go through as a constellation through the small jump points, and say a Caterpillar Carrack would be too big, because they're so that size 4 and up, where Constellation's 3 and down. I don't know. I don't know if that works for your brain, but because I think I don't know. It just puts it in a really weird place. If it's just this arbitrary cutoff point, and it's not to metrics, but man, maybe they have. Maybe they've just decided, no, stuff it. That's the advantage small ships have.
Yeah. Like, I think at the end of the day, the way they've gone is they've gone away from that idea of a small jump point, medium jump point, and large jump point in a sense. And it looks like they kind of twisted that so it picks up the idea Hayes had, and where he talked about the stability of a jump point being the key to a jump point. So the main jump point between systems, certainly the one between Stanton and Pyro, that's a main jump point. That is very stable, and so everything can go through it. Whereas the transient jump points, they are going to be more unstable, and so that's going to may depend on which ships can go through. But it feels like they're going that stability, the stability, lack of stability type approach. But either way, I liked what they were doing. There were some questions that have come up that made me go, oh yeah, that's an interesting one. So Fueler 5479, again from the Premier, said, so what happens if you're flying your Carrack and you find a new jump point, as per the whole concept of that ship? Will there still be a need to contact some traffic control, or how is that going to work? You need to get permission to enter it, even though it was previously an unknown jump point?
Well, again, that just brings up more questions now, because if it's a transient jump point, the Carrack can't go through it.
Oh, maybe.
And it's like me and Algared have been saying since the beginning, why the hell does the Pisces not have the scanning suite? And the original version that appeared on IRC, they said, oh yeah, it had a scanning suite, but removed it to give it more cargo. I am still hopeful we will have a third variant of the Pisces that's coming. But I also think we might not be getting it, because what would you have called it, Algared? I would have called it the Pisces Expedition. And we have a Pisces Expedition, and it's just a cargo variant.
Pisces Pathfinder.
Well, I think that was the original plan. I think the original plan was to have a scanning variant called the Expedition, and then they were going to have a normal variant that was just cargo. And then at the last minute, someone said, oh, we just don't need a scanning suite. Let's just make that the normal Pisces.
Yep. They could be doing what they could be going to do what they did or originally planned with the P52, P72 in terms of their ability to map and scan was originally to be linked to the mothership. So it would kind of have this internet connection and wirelessly get the information it needed to navigate.
Which kind of doesn't make sense for a jump point.
It kind of doesn't make sense for a jump point. The other thing is we don't necessarily know whether a Carrack can or cannot go through a transient jump point. I imagine the smaller ones, where you've got the small, medium, and large aspect coming in, they won't be able to, and that's where you'd want your Carrack. But then there'll be others they will be able to go through. So there's still a value for them, but it does raise more questions, doesn't it? So yeah, good questions. And in terms of the getting permission to enter the unknown jump point, I kind of, in a way, I kind of see the permissions is kind of getting, it's just another way of getting the ship prepared already and locking down. It's almost like locking down the systems. Okay, dive, that type of idea. But
makes me wonder if they deliberately just left certain things because they weren't sure at the time, like building like again, I go back to that Pisces Expedition, right, or the scanner on the Pisces. If you actually leave that, right, why would you leave it? And the advantage of leaving it is you don't know. They hadn't built all the systems out, so they didn't want to say this has a scanner. But now they could come back and go, all right, now here's the scanning version of the Pisces because we've figured out how it's going to work, or we're not going to do that because we've realized we don't need it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'd be kind of cool retroactively if they came back and go, oh, by the way, if you've got a Pisces Expedition, here's the new variant. They just give it to you, because it was like, what was it, an extra $30 or something for that combo, and it didn't make sense at the time why it was so expensive. All of a sudden, it does make sense because it didn't just include the skins; it included an actual different variant.
Yeah, now that would be quite novel if it did. I'm going to interrupt the chat because they're talking about the bot. The bot will pick up any question that has the word question in it.
Yep.
You don't need to put question in brackets. even just having question in the question will actually drag it out.
Half the questions that we invalidate, so to speak, when we go through and tick and untick things, are people just going, "Oh, that was a silly question," or "That was a great question," or "I've got a question. How do I ask it?" You know, things like that. They're everything that comes up. So just wherever the word.
Some of the things we devalidate. So one question that's come through from Chris, it's a bit further down, says, "Going to be so many questions about jump points from yesterday."
Yes.
Now that's a question we are going to invalidate, but because he's just saying, bots picked it up because it's got the word question in it. You actually don't need to put question in brackets. If you have question, if you say, "Hey, I've got a question," boom, boom, it's going to pick it up.
Doesn't hurt though to put it in front with the brackets if you want, because then you know you've said the word question. So go. Yeah. You guys do.
But that's generally how people do it, and certainly if we were going through and pulling them out by hand, having question in brackets certainly makes it stick out for us. But you actually don't need it. Our bot is awesome.
Wait, is Billionaire Ninja in the chat? He didn't get back to me, Algared, about this. Oh, he is in the chat. Billionaire Ninja, I added you on our Discord and said, "Do you want to join us for a show this weekend?" But you didn't get back to me, man. So if you hear this, get back to me on Discord. But we'll your kind of video that you reminded us about, I was going to say you can come join us if you would like to, just to reach out to you. But if you're busy, that's no problem either. Right.
You're most welcome to join us because, you raised some issues and we were going to talk.
Well, apparently we were going to do a video that we forgot about, or I forgot about, or whatever, however it went. And he did a whole video based on our idea, and then I saw it and I went, "Oh, yeah, maybe we should do that."
That was our video we were going to do, and we forgot. That was one of our low-hanging fruit videos, I think.
Yes.
Sokuamasita.
Say that 5 times fast. No, just kidding.
I can't. I'm just going to call you Soku.
Sokuyama Shikihita. It's Japanese. Sokuyamashita 7751 says, what happens if you exit the ship mid-jump or throw trash out? Will the ship just behind you collide with it? Yeah.
The understanding of what happens if you exit the jump mid-jump, so you take damage and your jump drive overloads and crashes, is that you'll be kicked out of the jump. You'll be kicked out of the wormhole.
Yeah, it's
really what a jump point is.
It's really obvious that there is a midpoint there somewhere where it's just going to go. It's going to flick over, but you won't see it. It's to kind of hide that thing, and wherever you drop out will be somewhere between those 2 points. So once you're onto the other side of the map, there is in fact a part where you will be traveling within system. It'll just be essentially like a sped up version of you traveling in system. And I reckon, as I said in the video, I reckon really savvy people that if they're prepared to take a bit of damage will get really... Yeah, especially criminals. Like if you've got really valuable cargo and it's going to cost you a little bit to damage, but you come out in an area where you don't have to bribe someone or you don't have to pay anyone off or anything like that, or it's even just closer to home, it may be worthwhile taking that hit. And if you get really adept at it, you could time it and go, "All right, it's 35 seconds, time to go," bang, and you just jump out.
You'll remember when mining came out. You know, what would people do? They actually worked out, if I fly between here and ArcCorp and drop out at 35 seconds, I land smack bang in the middle of the Halon, you know, the asteroid belt, right where the mining's good, and I'm not where people will find me.
So that's a really good example of people essentially exploiting the system. So people are going to exploit the system. Just to say hello to Captain Flannel in chat. You know who you are. Nice to see you, mate.
So I can see people doing that, and they did also talk about taking the light from each system, so the light from the sun of each system, and the first half, you know, will be Stanton Sun, and the second half will be kind of, and as you get closer to Pyro, it's going to take more of Pyro's sun colouring, and you know, and so you are going to have those visual clues to give that indication. So I can 100% see people doing that.
Well, especially if you're in a multi,
damage you take.
Especially if you're on a multi-cruise ship, right? If you're concentrating on flying, and essentially you're with one other person, the other person could be right. Okay, it's now time to drop out. They'll right. It's the right color.
Yeah.
We've just gone past that certain turn. Do it now. you know.
Yeah, the navigator's actually telling you when to drop, and then you've got your engineer making sure, okay, the systems, okay, I've turned off all these systems, right? We're ready to crash.
Shields up, or shields down, so we can get the distortion damage up. Yeah, bang.
You know,
and people will do it.
Turning our systems off just to
well,
so we'll drop
yeah,
out,
you could.
Then...
Oh, it makes me wonder that. Can you deliberately turn the ship off to prevent damage? There's so many questions there. And it's funny how just knowing a few little extra things has raised so many more questions. I do like that. And like, I know you and me, because we've talked about it, but I put that off to chat. Like, I've had more to talk about off that one episode of ISC than I think I have off an ISC episode in literally like the last 2 years. And we even said that before the episode. Like, it was just like, I know there's going to be heaps of things to talk about. It's just a really weird time to drop such a meaty episode. And just to put it this way, Algared, there are news articles that have come out after this article. Like, so some of the gamer publications talked about this ISC. That's how big of a drop it was, right? And to drop it at a period like this, where we're just in the eye of the storm, is really strange. But it also is really cool that they did, because I don't think they do know their audience as well as they should. But yeah, all the people that were watching that, would have been watching that, are those really hardcore people that love that type of information.
If you are free, Billionaire Ninjas, you are welcome to jump in our Discord now.
Yeah, man. Go nuts.
We're happy for you to get on voice with us right now if you want.
Yeah, jump in.
He has said he's absolutely interested in doing a video this weekend. So
yeah, sweet. Yeah, awesome.
That's cool. But we're also happy for you to literally jump in, and if you jump in and get into general voice,
we'll drag you up.
So that's cool.
Yeah, it might not be able to get on camera straight away, but we can definitely have your voice.
Certainly get your voice, and
share your thoughts with us. That's no problem whatsoever.
Share your thoughts, share your channel, so that people who don't know you can actually go there as well. So
yeah, 100%. We're always up for having a chat. I kind of think back to when
I like talking shit.
Yeah, it's always good to talk to different people. Especially other content creators, because there's just this thing where there's things that normal people don't know. And what I mean by that is not about the game, about content creation. But you've been through the ringer together, so you kind of already know what the other person's going through.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So back to Sokyo Masita's 7751's question. I know we've answered that. That was kind of the dropping out of jump point. So I think that aspect. But tossing trash out the back of the ship, I don't think they've even raised that. It's a bit like opening the back and shooting your railgun. Railgun. Or, I don't know.
You'd have to assume that they'll just make it so it's like something at speed, and so if you throw it out in a jump point, it's lost.
I think it's a bit like, I think in a sense, and we see this already, is if you're on a quantum jump and you jump out of your ship, you drop out of quantum. But the ship keeps going.
Well, the other way you could do it too is why doesn't it just drop it out like you jump out and it just leaves it there, and after a period of time it despawns it, just like normal trash.
Yeah. So I can imagine it just drops it out of, just tosses it out of the server. So I don't think it's an issue. You'll also know that at the present, like we were talking, dropping engines and stuff to drop out of the jump drop point. People do that in quantum already. You're flying in quantum, you turn your engines off, boom, you drop out of quantum drive.
But has anyone really done any significant tests to go back and find stuff? Like, I don't think you'd be able to do it until scanning's in. I'm like trying to think that out, because at the moment, if you drop out someone that's in a ship, right? So say you drop out of a Pisces in warp, right? It's different because there's a person there. It's reading the person's there. Where if you drop the Pisces on its own or dropped a box on its own, I don't think people would struggle to find that. It'd be really hard to actually go back and find a single crate.
I imagine if it was a
by the way, we're getting into the weeds. So I want to point that out. Yeah.
Yep. If it was a mission crate, you might be able to send something that had, sensor data. You might be able to, but if you don't have the sensor data, it's going to make it difficult.
Yeah. So I think I
think really are. Yeah.
Do we leave it at we need scanning?
Oh, definitely we need scanning.
Yeah, I think that's where we leave that one. So this week's episode was reminded to us by Billionaire Ninja Dominus Noctis is asking on Twitch. Was a couple of weeks ago we were talking about making our own packs, and CIG should let some content creators have a crack at creating their own packs and just see how well they sell, because I think they would learn a fair bit about what the community is actually into and would they sell better than other packs, because they always sell packs in such a way that kind of really benefit them. They don't really ever really benefit the community. For example, they always come with an abundance of small shitty ships, but never actually ships that you want to put together. Like I can tell you right now, Algared, I can think of a pack straight off the bat that 3 ships that you and I would put together.
Yeah.
The Redeemer, the Reclaimer, the Endeavor, and the Crucible. And just call it the Inforunners pack. And it would make no sense because there's no Inforunner. Oh, maybe we chuck in the Herald just for shits and gigs or something like that, you know? Oh, he's in, is he? I was trying to
put him in.
Put him in.
IP role.
Don't get which role was it? Yeah, that's what I was trying to find him in the list. Oh yeah, cool. You gave him the right one. Awesome. How you doing, man? Is your mic working, Billion? Oh, no.
I'm not going to turn his mic off, but he's certainly in chat.
All right, his roles are set. He should be good. All right, well, he can start talking when he's ready.
And if you can't talk, just message us and we'll chase it down.
Did you change his role when you dragged him in?
I dragged him in, changed his role, and took him out and dragged him back.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah, you got to drag.
Yeah.
Okay, you did that. Cool. Yeah, I was gonna say because if you change it while he's in, it doesn't take. You got to drag him out and drag him back.
His mic was muted when he came in. I gave him the role and then tossed him back out and then dragged him back in.
All right. Well, I dragged him out and dragged him back in again just for my sanity. All right, he's getting dragged everywhere, kicking and screaming.
Yep. Chewed Gumballs.
Yeah.
Asked a question during the premiere yesterday. He said one thing that either I did not pick up on or that was not mentioned and missed is the quantum drive effectively the jump drive now? What happened next about C8 Pisces being able to equip a jump drive? No, the lore has not changed.
So, Algared, I think this is something that you and I know a lot about, but I actually think what would be really cool is if we did an episode that showed the ships that can and the ships that can't. For example, I was recently looking at the 100i because of the skin for the Foundation Festival, right? And I noticed that it doesn't have the jump drive. And I was very surprised by that. And so to put that in unless that's going to change, right? But it currently
doesn't have a slot.
So when you look at a quantum drive, there is essentially a space above it that's essentially half the width of the quantum drive, and that's what the jump drive is. And you'll notice that there's these little clip things, and so essentially it's like a mod that you install onto the top of the quantum drive, essentially making it taller. Now I don't have, man, maybe I got open game if you really wanted to see it right now, but let us know in chat if you want to see it right now. But essentially,
I think I fixed my mic issue.
Yeah, cool, sweet. All right, just give me a second.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. Let me just finish this, and then we'll kick it off.
Well,
yeah. So essentially, there's just a gap above. So the example I would give, as I said, is the 100i versus the cutter. So the cutter has a space above, but if you go in the cutter, it's in the back of the ship, and in the on the 100i, it's on the nose off to one side. And when you open it, there's literally, it's like a filled-in space. So that tells me it cannot take the jump drive because you can't physically put it there.
And in lore, the lore was always that the jump drive, the early lore was basically the quantum drive that mucked up. So the first ship that went through a jump drive, we literally have a soundbite in the file somewhere. They're calling up, they've had a breakdown, and then as they're doing something opens up, and then you hear this crackle, and they're gone.
Yep.
And that's the first ship that disappears. That was in the, what was the name? It was the something triangle, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was up near Jupiter and around that area.
Yeah.
And
essentially they treated it like the Bermuda Triangle from reference, and heaps of ships had gone missing there, but no one could figure out why. And then it turned out there was a jump point there, and all these ships had just been getting sucked through for years. And if you think about it, if you now think about what happened to those people, it's freaking scary, because half of them wouldn't have navigated the jump point. they would have just come out in the middle of somewhere and they were so far away that they died.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was the stuff in the early lore, but the early lore was that was happening. Croshaw was the first guy to actually work out that it was a mucked up quantum drive in conjunction with RSI, using RSI jump points and stuff. It has been worked out that the RSI jump point or jump drive is actually, they didn't actually change the drive. They just used the same broken bit and tack it onto the top so that it actually makes the jump drive, the quantum drive broken.
Yep.
It actually does that. But that's how the jump drives always were supposed to be. They were supposed to be a quantum drive. And that raises questions for ships like the Endeavour, where the jump drive engine is at the back, but the quantum drives were kind of hinted at being at the front. So
God, can you imagine what it's going to be like navigating like some of those really large capital ships through jump points? Holy crap!
Use maps.
Yeah. All right, but Billionaire Ninja, let's have a chat to him. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Billionaire, so people know who you are and what you do and stuff like that?
Hello, Billionaire here. Not actually a billionaire. I know a lot of people keep asking me that in my chat. I don't know why, but I'm not. If I was, I probably wouldn't need to do YouTube for a living. But yes, I actually don't do YouTube for a living. It's actually just a thing I do for fun. I actually started the channel after watching your guys' channel for years. So you have officially inspired a YouTube creator if you haven't known that you've done that already.
I think we've done a few at this point. It comes around, and we've seen people come and go that have tried to do what we do. I'm not saying we're brilliant at what we do. We just enjoy what we do. We've never really taken it seriously, and that's the same advice I'd give back to you. And it sounds like you're taking the right approach already. You know, you started it for fun. Yeah, and I would continue to do that, mate. That would be my advice to you. Is just, if you're not having fun, don't do it. Yeah, that's just it. And yeah, I think keep it simple, you know. So yeah, so what kind of things do you do? Do you just do similar things to us, or what's some stuff that kind of make it a bit more unique for yourself, if you don't mind sharing?
Sure. So I started the channel actually 2 years ago, but then I just didn't have the time to actually put the effort into it that would make it, actually useful to people. But I actually joined the game, I think 8 years ago. So I've been following it for a long time.
That is
the reason I started. I think so, but compared to most people, like I see some people who's been following for 12 and 13 years, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's not that long of a time.
Well, again, you think of any project, it's going to start out with less people and grow. So yeah, obviously that's a given. You know, I've been here since day dot, but I still run into people that they started at day dot, then disappeared for 8 years, and then have only recently come back. Yeah. So you get all types, man, on a project like this. So yeah. I don't think it really matters where you kind of came in. The only kind of thing that we've noticed between, and it's not all of them, is generally the longer you've been here, the kind of more you know. And that's not to say you can't go out and educate yourself, but as you would know, it takes a really long time to do that because of how the information is dispersed. You have obviously gone back and watched a lot of videos, yeah? I think that's what a lot of content creators do now. Am I wrong in that, or what's your approach been?
No, that's actually something. Go ahead.
2 secs. Volta, thank you for the raid. I was actually watching Volta. He actually plays with his son. He's actually a German streamer, Algared. I didn't even know. And then I went, I know that guy's name. He watches us all the time.
How could you not work out that person was not German?
Well, I knew he was German, but I didn't know he was a streamer. And so when I saw his name in the list of Star Citizen streamers, I just jumped in and started talking to him. And he's like, oh, wow, nice to see you. And he was like, the whole stream was German, and he was just like very friendly, very welcoming, talking to me. A lot of it I didn't understand what was going on because it was obviously in German, but yeah, you could tell he's got the passion for it. So it was great to see you, Walter. His son wasn't there at the time, but yeah, they generally play the game together, so that's their approach. But yeah, I'll definitely stop by again, Walter. Sorry to interrupt you there, Billy, but I had to thank the raid, so I know you understand. So yeah, back to what you're saying, Billionaire.
Yeah, no worries. I'm actually trying to get my brother-in-law to play so I can play with him. He's 13 years old, so that's actually great. So
Yep.
yeah, just got him set up with the PC.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the first thing that I did before I started a channel, I felt like I needed to earn my stripes, so I went back and watched all of the old videos. So I kind of did the same thing that Algared did, and just went back and I was like, let me build up my knowledge first before I start a YouTube channel and actually act like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but
you know, and I think that was, it felt like going through the ringer a little bit to try to like earn the right to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, we now know that it is a ringer because as of yesterday, it's 500 episodes. That is a lot of content.
It's a lot of episodes.
And some of those episodes are not like 10, 15 minutes. Like, because that's the other thing I want to put out there as well. Like they talk about how they got to 200 episodes of the latest one, which is ISC. But a lot of the older stuff was way longer. Right? Like no, some of them were 3-hour live streams. You know, like so.
Some of them live, but the weekly lunchtime stream. I'm not even sure if that's available. You can find.
Yeah.
That was an hour guaranteed. Hour. It almost became the precursor to the Friday Night Live type.
And you would know having watched it too, Billionaire. Some of that stuff will go for a long time, and there'll be nothing in it, like nothing that's new, nothing that's you know. So, it'd be really cool if I went back through it again. Not that I'm going to, but if I went back through it again, I'd be almost like marking episodes whether they're worth watching or not, and timestamp the relative information.
Timestamp the relevant info.
That would be amazing.
Outlet, thank you for that super chat. Always love seeing those. It kind of gives me a warm fuzzy. I know it's a weird thing, but never expected, never required, never demanded. But boy, they are always appreciated. And so thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And not even with a comment. So thumbs up and smiley face. Awesome.
Yeah. For those of us that joined us from Volta's raid, we're talking to Billionaire Ninja, who's, I don't know, he's not new. You said you're around for 8 years. How long do you reckon? You said probably in the last year or 2 years your content's kicked off? When did you say you really started working on it with gusto?
So I started it 2 years. My first video was 2 years ago, but then I quickly realized like I didn't know enough of like the detailed information to really start talking about stuff. So that's when I took the time off, and that's when I watched all of the video. Well, maybe missed a few of the 3-hour ones, but I watched all of the ISCs. I watched all of the like bug smashers and all of that stuff. All of the hour and less content. And then I started making videos. I'd say actually I know the exact date, December 4th. Is when I started making videos, and I've made this thing of where I'm trying to rate every ship by CitizenCon, because I'll actually probably see you guys at CitizenCon because I'm going this year for the first time. So
I saw someone says that you justify ship prices by the number of guns.
My haters are my motivators. The interestingly enough, I have said that I feel like certain ships deserve more guns, but never try to justify the price of any ship, because anytime you're paying more than $60 or $70 for a video game, you're probably paying too much. But a few times, maybe in my earlier days, I may have said some things that were maybe a little bit too justifiable when I was talking about guns. But I've learned the error of my ways, and I no longer do that. I think some ships actually shouldn't have guns and should just have better speed or defense, because I think it just makes more sense, like size ones on a Vulture.
I'd agree with that.
Maybe those,
pretty sure
if the ship was just faster and more defensive.
I think some of the idea of the guns kind of have the idea, it's more for the sake of making you feel better that you've got something. There was a German fighter in World War II that had remote rear firing guns, and they were seen as being absolutely useless. But they were there mainly because the pilots liked them, because it gave them a sense of security, knowing that they could shoot back at something that was trying to shoot them.
Yeah, I think
it's almost that type of feeling.
I get that. So I was in the military. I don't know if you know that I was in the military for 8 years. Army. I deployments overseas.
Right.
And one of the things that I noticed is sometimes when you go outside the wire, you don't necessarily need your weapon for what you're doing, but it gives you that warm and fuzzy. So
Better safe than
I
sorry?
get that.
Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Yes. And I've seen people that are just so excellent at fighting with ships that they can do something with those size ones that I just can't do. So I get that there's people out there that are
thinking of Moist Noodle in an Aurora, if you've ever seen him.
Yeah,
he'll just absolutely like I've seen him. I don't remember what ship it was. I think he went up against an F8 or something like that, an Aurora, and he absolutely just trounced it.
I remember watching, early on in Arena Commander, when the Hornet F7CM was the meta ship, the absolute god ship of combat. And there were some people who'd go out in their Aurora, and they were just absolute gods. Just because they were such good pilots, and they would just own. If you saw them in this thing, I'm dead.
I think you'd probably both agree once they actually get a more of established flight model for the Xi'an ships. I think then we'll start to see something like that because
I've always thought the Xi'an ships are a ship that is made for stick users.
Yeah, it's mobility over the guns and stuff. So yeah, I'm interested to see. You've obviously seen how they're going to work when they're kind of done, Billionaire.
Yeah, I'm actually interested to see where they take it. I actually am a stick user, but I'm a recent stick user, as in I was mouse and keyboard for like the first 4 years, and then I switched halfway through and started using sticks, and then I just bought some new sticks that I have no idea how to use, but I'm working on it. But yeah, I'm looking at the future. I think Master Modes now obviously does need some work, but I don't hate it. In fact, I kind of like it. That might be, a weird thing to say at this point, but I kind of like it. I think it's giving each ship a role.
I think that's becoming more and more apparent as time goes by, because a lot of the initial P versus Pers hated it because they don't like change, but now it's here. I think you'll find that the masses are like, no, it's fine. The other thing I want to point out to people that are listening, there is clearly some lag again, because now we've added Billion and he's talking from the States, so there's a bit of lag. So yeah. So if you're wondering why we're talking over top of it, and again, it's the nature of a conversation too, so I will put that out there. So yeah, if you're not liking the over talking, we can only apologize. That is just the nature of a conversation. All right, do we want to take another question, and we can just?
I'm going to put up another question because we still haven't got through our premiere questions yet.
Yeah, so. We'll just have to add Billionaire into answering the questions.
So Paragon Fang Zen says, takes a quote from the show. He says, "We removed the big churning structures because we want them to be natural. So if you want them to go through one, there is a force field that rejects you until you call ACC so that they can let you through."
Yeah.
How the heck do they make these two conflicting ideas make sense with each other again? And I get the idea. I think the force field idea picks up that unless you're attuned to the jump drop, to the jump point, it just rejects you. It's like magnets.
Yeah, I got that part of it. That made sense.
So that bit makes sense to me, with no problem. The fact that you need to call ATC to kind of register you're going through, that doesn't make sense. And hopefully that is just the thing you do at those main jump points where they queue up and
I think it's till they get like a group system in.
Yep.
That makes a lot more sense, So you can just go, hey, join my group. Because that's clearly something they haven't built yet.
Yeah, and they did say they're looking at doing the more group things and making it better, but I could see the established jump points using ATC to control when people go through.
What about you, Billion?
Whether that exists for the transient jump points or others, I don't know. And whether that will be something that changes down the track, I don't know. But
Billion, is you on? What's your take on that, mate?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think of like established naval ports for countries, right? Like they you have to, you can't just show up and from another country and just go straight in. You have to have like, the right paperwork and stuff like that. And obviously we're not going to go that far into realism, but just contacting ATC is kind of just like saying, hey, hey, other side, we're coming to your domain, and just kind of, you know, letting them know like, hey, you know, we're coming over there. And I think because they don't, I think there are certain gameplay limitations that are, you know, keeping them from doing other things. And I don't think that once they have those, what did they call the other type of jump point, the one that's not official? Yeah, when they have those transient jump points, I think those will be the ones where you kind of just go through and you don't have to worry about the ATC, and that'll be like kind of like the same way somebody would sneak anything into a country. Not that I'm advocating for that, just saying, you know, the same way you would sneak anything and you don't have to contact anybody, you just make your way through.
Yeah.
All right, next one, Algared.
The next one is from. These are now, we've finished our Premiere questions. That was the last Premiere question. We're now into the actual questions from this morning. So the first one is Rayguns. Raygun972 says, do you have any idea why the Zeus CL won't make it at the same time as the ES, as it would be very useful for cargo update? More difficult to make?
I think it's probably got to do with how different they are internally. And I think that they would have built one. If you think about it, if you're going to build a series of ships and you're building them essentially in series, isn't that fundamental changing the room at the back and the layout? Isn't that essentially almost like a modular system? So essentially, they've built all the modules for the ES. Now they've got to go back and build 3 or 4 modules for the CL. That's kind of how I see it, Algared. And well, actually, let's put a build. What do you prefer, Bill or Ninja? I'll let you pick, because we're Australian, we short people's names. So what do you want? You just tell us what you want.
Ninja's good.
All right, we'll call you Ninja then. All right, so Ninja, what's your take on why that would be?
I didn't actually hear the question. I was actually listening.
So essentially, it was saying why is because the ES is coming first, right? The Zeus ES. He's essentially asking why is that coming, but why is the CL not coming with the ES?
I think because they already have. Well, I guess the question confuses me a little too, because I feel like they can both come at the same time. They have enough to do, you know, a cargo ship. They have all the components and stuff from other ships. They could easily do a cargo ship. But my guess is that they want to do the ES first because more people bought the ES. They have the numbers on that. My guess is more people have the ES.
It's cheaper, it makes sense. You buy the cheaper one. Yeah.
So they're like, let's just do the one that more people have first.
No, I take that back. The ES and the CL are the same price, are they not? They were the same price. Yeah, I have to double check that. But I'm pretty sure they came out at the same price. They were like $155 or something like that, I'm pretty sure they were the same price. And then the one they removed, the ST, I reckon that was the midpoint, and then the Marky Mark was $190.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on that one. Yeah, sorry.
I'm thinking that I mean, there's what role, I guess, does the CL fill that isn't already filled by another cargo ship, versus, you know, having this size of a explorer ship, and maybe there's something about it that I don't know yet, or we don't know yet, but it seems to me that either more people bought the Zeus ES, or that they're trying to, you know, push forward a different type of gameplay than just the cargo. But
the cargo, both the same price. They're both 150, and the Marky Mark is 190.
Yeah, I knew it was like 150 something. So yeah. I knew, it's been a hot minute. I was looking it up. Are you watching the screen, by the way? Because I share my screen. So you should be able to see me and Algared in live time, not the stream.
Yes, I'm watching.
Yeah, cool. Well, now you get the behind the scenes, so you get to see all the shit that we're going to put up with, right? So welcome to the chaos. Yeah, like it's, yeah.
You've got the chat feed, the chat on the one side, the YouTube chat down below.
Yeah, so it's everywhere.
So yeah, but
also just for your benefit, the questions they're reading from, if you look in Discord. Oh, I'm pointing up and looking above because that's where it is on my screen. But see the one that says stream questions? That's where we're taking the questions from.
I got it.
So if you want to, and
you don't have to worry about trying to read. You read the chat to find out what chat's saying, but
and the ones that are being ticked off, that's all emojied off. That's where we're up to if you want to follow along on there. But that's up to you, man. Yeah. Red ones are from YouTube, as in the boxes, and the purple ones are. We've only got one question from Twitch. Slack, up your game, Twitch. Come on, what's going on?
Yeah. Twitch. Yeah,
Right.
and clearly it's just, YouTube is where people are all that.
So, Algared, I'll leave you to round it out. What do you think it is? Do you think it's like maybe they've got less people on it, so they're kind of building it modularly, or what do you think it is?
I think part of it might be to do with the team that's actually working on the ship. So they've got one person, maybe one or two people, and they're working on the CL or the ES, and they're wetting their teeth, and then they're going on and they'll do the CL. It may even be something more, but
I've just thought of what it could be, and I only just thought of it as you were speaking. I always tie it to gameplay, right? I always say that. So we know the bounty hunting was originally planned, and that's why things like the Marky Mark was coming. Scanning. They've been talking about scanning and stuff like that. I reckon the ES is the test bed for scanning.
That could, yeah. Well, it'd be essential, so maybe.
Yeah. And if you think about it, and I don't want to just say this to shit on people, but think about it literally, the CL is just another cargo ship, which they're already going to have finished by then. So they don't need it. It's not as essential. Yeah. Right?
That's kind of what I was saying before. I was like, it's another cargo ship. I was trying not to say like it's just another cargo ship, but I feel the same way. Like, I love the CL.
Just say how you feel. And if you are wrong, chat will tell you are wrong. Other people will tell you are wrong. But quite honestly, often you'll be thinking it and someone else will be thinking it. It's got to that point now. And you shouldn't be scared to share your opinion and be wrong. Because the one thing we've learned doing this is if you are wrong, you learn from your mistakes, and we all are old enough and ugly enough to know that now. So don't. You'll get other content creators that'll say something, and they will never admit that they're wrong, and it is very human to be wrong. So just own it and move on and learn from it. But we've got a question there. Super chat? Yeah, go for it.
From Dejocko, it's $5 super chat. Awesome. And Dejocko chucked in a question, and because he's done a super chat, his question jumps the queue. And his question is, while you're talking about the ES, do you think that having the ES and the Terrapin in the same fleet is redundant or pointless?
No, because that's the other thing we're finding. And again, if you start to even just look at Jump Point, there are different types of scanning, right? The Terrapin is really unique because it's got 2 utility ports. It's going to be one of the only ships that can essentially put 2 different scanners on. Yep. And that is a huge benefit, and I don't think you'll see that in another ship until you get up into bigger ships where they can have multiple scanners. And again, we don't know of. Hang on, just let me finish. There is other things that we haven't seen, like other ships that have multiple scanners that haven't kind of really had the realization of what that means, because scanning, much like other gameplays as they come along, we kind of talked about this earlier with the Pisces, where they leave things really vague until they get round to designing them. And I think it's the same thing with that. Until that tier of scanning comes in and people go back, well, you would understand this too, Billion, and I know Algared will as well, is all the different types of scanning. And that's going to change the game. Algared?
And they have talked about, the different types of scanning, scanning for mining, scanning for people, scanning for different. But the only other ship, like the Terrapin, has 2 size 2 utility mounts for scans, for scanning. The only other ships that I know of that have utility mounts for scanning, the Aquila, which has its dorsal turret has 2 size 2 scanning mounts. And the MSR that I believe has a utility mount for a scanner. They're the only ships I know of that actually have that. There might be more, but if there are, I've forgotten them.
If I also include the DUR in this equation, just to make it like another level of complication, you can, so the ES, highly survivable, and it doesn't have the long rangeness of the DUR. So the DUR is an explorer, as in it goes as far as it can, kind of out into the black through multiple jump points, trying to find stuff type of exploring. The DUR has high survivability, high shields, but it doesn't go as far. So it's almost more like the cab of the Endeavour. Like it's going into dangerous areas that other ships can't go because of that high level of shielding and stuff. So, if you're constantly getting eaten at and your shield's coming down and down and down, if you've got a a longer lasting shields, you can go through, say, a nebula that another ship can't go through, as an example, right? And then you get to the Terrapin, it's more of a military scanner, so it's really built to find other ships. It literally has the ability to lock down its own outputs, so it can't be found, but it can find other people. It's almost like a counter scanner, if you think about it, right? It's essentially hiding itself so it can go into other scanning ships and go, there's a scanning ship, there's all their shit, take it out. And it sends that information, and then the combat ships just come in and just attack because they know what's there. So again, you can just see through the three things I've described there, each of those ships are tailored they're roughly the same size, but they're completely tailored at different types of exploration. Is that a good example? I think that's the best way to I can explain it. Is there is different types of exploration.
The other thing was we don't know for certain that we're speculating that the ES is scanning. It may not be, but it kind of makes sense. It's kind of a joining of the dots of what possibly makes sense. It's scanning.
It's looking at the components, and the components highly talk into it having, I think it was a radar. It has an extra radar, and it has an extra shield. Which points to it being an explorer. I'll go back and double check now, but yeah.
So we don't know for certain. I can't recall them saying, but it's looking at that information and going, that's what it looks like. But whereas we do know the Terrapin does have those. So,
yeah, and the Terrapin to me seems more recon than explorer. And I know we talked about different types of scanning.
That's a good way to put it,
also,
though.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that.
It's more defensive, right? Like it literally, they talk about the Terrapin's thick armor and how it can vent its heat and stuff like that, right? So I think the Terrapin's more meant to be attacked. Like it's meant to go into a hotter zone than the ES. Like it can go in, get the information. It's more like attached to like a military garrison rather than the ES would be more like I'm doing this as a civilian and kind of doing it on my own. And also, 32 SEU of cargo in the ES, right? So it's more meant to go and get stuff and bring it back, whereas the Terrapin doesn't have any cargo. And I think that's kind of the big difference I see between the two.
So I'm just gonna switch this over. And I had remembered it correctly, so thank God for that. So you can see here, you got a size 3 radar, and you've got 4 size 2 shields. Where if I go down to the marquee mark, it's only got a size 2 radar, and it only has 3 size 2 shields, right? And it's the same. The CL, it's the same again. 1 size 2 and 3 size shields. So essentially, these components are the same on these two variants. What changes here is essentially that. Yeah, so. and then if you go back to the marquee mark, obviously it gets extra weapons and turrets, and then obviously the difference with the CL is the cargo space. So they all have a slightly different advantage. I guess.
Yeah, so they haven't, and that's why even though the ES doesn't say outright this is a scout or a scanning ship.
It's connecting dots. Yeah,
but it's connecting dots. So
I think Billionaire, you on you agree with me in Algared, or are we off the mark there? What do you reckon?
No, absolutely. And I think the extra shield, when I think of explorers, I also think they're meant to go certain places that other ships aren't really meant to go. And so having that extra shield might be the difference maker in whether you can make it to some place that other ship can't, because you have that shield that you can just say, oh, that's a throwaway shield to get close.
Good example is the Carrack having all that extra survivability, like the medical and the repairs and stuff like that. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. That's a really good thing to point out.
No, I was literally thinking the same thing when Ninja was saying that. Just like, all right.
Great means, what's that? Great minds think alike. So, yeah.
All right. Never think of that, yeah.
All right.
J-Bear. Oh, J-Bear said...
You should let Billion read one.
Yep.
Can you see the questions? Or, we're up to J-Bear.
And stream questions, right? The ones that are not read.
No, the ones that are not ticks. So the next one's from J-Bear Man Cave. If you can see it.
Okay, yes.
You got it? Yeah, cool. When you're ready.
What ship concept do you want to see soon?
All right, I'll let you answer first, Billion. Then we can have a think about it.
Ship concept? Well, that Drake Corvette.
It's really appealing.
So I have a bunch of ships. So like for me, I'm only looking for things that can replace ships I already have, and a Drake Corvette is right up my alley. I didn't even realize that Drake was one of my favorite manufacturers till like this most recent Invictus.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm looking for larger ships, so anything large is what I'm looking for. I just got an Ironclad, so I'm really hyped right now for large ships.
Nice. Yeah.
Have you thought about an Endeavor?
I have 3. I mean, I don't want to talk to the king of ships about how many ships I have, but yeah, I have 3 Endeavors, so
yeah,
I definitely am part of the cult of Endeavor.
I've only got the one, believe it or not. So I've only got the one. I don't double up on a lot of things, but if I was going to double up on a ship, it would be an Endeavor, that's for sure. I have
one ship that makes sense.
I have brought multiple CCUs to the Endeavor though, in case I want to get more. So yeah. Yeah, for me, I'd also say the Corvette is very, very appealing. Not just because it's Drake, but there are not many Corvettes. Like, if you honestly break it down, you've essentially got the Polaris and the Odyssey. They're the only 2 in that size range. And so we kind of need another one. And I'm going to be honest with you, what's the standing kind of similarity between Corvettes right now? And that's a single small hangar that's attached to the ship. So I'd like to see something, excuse me, that doesn't have that. And also, what does Break bring to the table in a Corvette, right? And a lot of people go, well, it could be this, it could be that. But one of the realizations I'm having, and this is one of the things that me and Algared, it makes it harder for us to sit here and speculate, is I've been bringing this up a lot, and Algared's probably a bit sick of it, is just how generalized Drake are. I'm starting to realize they almost have a ship in every single, like, little category. Like especially when they came out with the Ironclad. And now they have an assault carrier. Like what? Like what? like that's not Drake.
I think Drake is somebody's favorite ship manufacturer at CIG, and they're just not saying it out loud, but they're just showing it with their actions.
Yeah. But again, so that's a really good example that just been made. Is a mini Pioneer, please? Yeah. Well, again, I don't think you're going to see that now because we've essentially got the Pioneer, the Galaxy, the MCV, and whatever that little hand thing is. But you start to think outside the box. What can Drake be, and what can that be? And I think out of most manufacturers now, I find Drake harder to pin down than anyway, because they seem to be the cheap man's generalist manufacturer, where they're just like, oh, there's a small hole here. It's almost like they're using Drake to plug the random holes, is it not, Algared? I don't know. I'll let you weigh in here, Algared, because it's harder to detect them now, is it not?
Well, I've always argued, people who say that Drake are pirates. I've always rankled against that. I've hated the idea that a major ship manufacturer was just for pirates. They just built cheap ships which were easy to maintain, and that's why pirates use them. They were ships that were used on the rim. And if you're in an area where you can't get supplies because you can't go to a local shipyard because you're a criminal, you have to jury rig things, and things that are difficult to repair aren't worth having. If a German car with the German manufacturing might be fantastic, but if it costs you an arm and a leg to repair a simple thing, you don't end up keeping your German car. You get rid of it.
And there's
I think that's the appeal of Drake.
Yeah. Go ahead, Billy.
And there's no real life facsimile to that either, right? Like we don't real life pirates. In real life right now, we don't go to the boat manufacturer and say, hey, boat manufacturer, pirates are using your ships to do stuff. Like, we don't do that right now. So, I mean, the closest you would have is like when people, talk about guns and whether the gun manufacturer should be used. But that's literally built for it's literally built for war. Like that
Yeah.
thing is built for war, whereas boats is just a way to transport you. You know, and it might have a gun on it, but yeah.
I think the big realization for me and Algared came when other people don't think like me and Algared do. And I'm not saying this, I'm not to throw them under the bus or whatever, right? But we had Stem Citizen on and Griffin at the same time, and it was a talk about Origin versus Drake and piracy versus good and all that type of stuff. And there was just like, you could almost see the epiphany on their faces when we kind of said, do you think someone's going to steal an 890 jump and just sell it? They're going to turn that into the most fancy pirate ship you've ever bloody seen. And they'd never even thought of that concept. You could tell just by the things they said and the look on their face. And there's an episode on the channel, you can go watch it. And they just never ever thought of that. And it's like it was almost mortifying to them that their ship would be taken, and almost like the Black Pearl, you know, like be taken in like in what the hell's that movie? What's the movie, the pirate movie got with Johnny Depp? God, I'm having a brain fart. You know, with the one. But yeah, like they take a fancy ship and they essentially butcher it, you know, paint it in red and black colors and put a pirate flag on it.
We're talking about Pirates of the Caribbean, right?
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean, that's the one. But if you don't think there's going to be an 890 jump pirate ship, you've got rocks in your head, right? Because that is a pirate ship is the person. It is not the ship. They will just take it and accommodate it and use it in any way, shape, or form. And if you think about the Ironclad was like an armored transport, and how well defended an 890 jump is, that's a really good pirate ship, because if you've got shit on that, it's going to be really hard for you to take it. It's a great pirate ship if you do the math. It's just really expensive, and so pirates tend to because
the 890 jump, great pirate ship. It's got a hangar for launching lots of little fighters. It's got great cargo space. It's got lots of guns. It's fast.
Yeah, and they even talk about how tough it is, right? Like, doesn't it have like a graphene hull or something? Like they talk about how it's got like triple layers or something. So it's a really tough ship too. So it's meant to, you know. Be in a fight.
Waffle 458 says we use the 890 as a mobile refuel platform for piracy at the moment. So there you go. But yeah, like you look at in game, we've got the stories of Jax McCleary, and out in Pyro, where was one of the places he was sitting? And an 890 pirate ship. If you look at real life, you've got Blackbeard's Revenge. Blackbeard's Queen Anne's Revenge was a British warship that had been captured. So
Spanish galleons got taken a lot and turned into pirate ships as well.
You know, so we've got real life examples from the Age of Sail where pirate ships were taken, or ships were taken and turned into pirate ships. You've got examples from in-game lore where you've got Jax McCleary getting captured by pirates and being on an 890 jump. My only lament about pirates in-game is that they certainly have no sense of cleanliness or maintaining their systems. It's as if I'm a pirate, therefore I do not maintain my ship and I let it run down and be crap.
Well, it's also, I think, because they're on that's why Drake's got pulled into this. They can't afford a lot of things, but Drake's ships are cheaper. That's why they use them so frequently. But if you're it almost shows you how well of a successful pirate you are. If you could afford to buy an 890 jump as a pirate, you're doing pretty bloody well. You know,
X, what are you talking about? Buy an 890
you know what
jump
I mean?
Pirate. You are clearly a failed pirate if you're going to do that. You hijack an 890 jump as a pirate. Come on, get with the program, me. And you claim,
hey, I have never said I'm a pirate. I just get that moniker chucked upon me all the time, and that is not true. I take
exactly what a pirate would say.
I take your allegations, Mr. Old Man Hurston, you corporate pirate, and you can shove them up your girl.
I just know what the pirates do because you know our Hurston
because it happens to you all the time. Yeah, I know.
Constantly.
You're well versed in being one. I know. You're a corporate pirate, as I said. Yeah.
Not a corporate.
All right. Next question is from Chris, who says the C8 Pisces has it in lore that that they can equip a jump drive. The video suggests that any ship with a quantanium drive can just jump. Are jump drives dead, or is quantum drive a jump drive now? I think we kind of went over this question before, Chris. So let us know if we've already answered that, because I think we kind of did flog that to death.
So the key thing is jump drives are quantum drives that are malfunctioning, and the ships that can take a jump drive will have a slot above a quantum drive where you could put a module.
Yes.
Yeah. So if Billion doesn't beat us to the punch, we'll like you did this week. We'll probably do a video where we'll go through. Oh, it'd be a good one for you. Maybe we can do this one with you as well, Billion, if you want. Because we don't edit our videos. We're lazy shits. Yeah.
We edit it because I've made real big errors.
How about this? For the video this weekend, and then we'll come and join you on your channel for that one if you want. It's up to you. I don't want to tell you what to do, but yeah, I just think that would be a really good informative video that would go pretty viral because no one's done that. No one's gone through, do you know that your ship can't jump through jump points type of thing. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I'm going to open it in game and try and show 2 examples just real quick.
Example.
Yeah.
But
going to the next question while I'm loading. So if you're running away, everyone's talking weird. It's because I've opened the game and they can't see anything, and so they feel like I've just closed their eyes on them.
It does feel a bit like that. That's when I look. That's when I start looking into the side where I've got the Twitch running.
Yep.
So I can actually see what's going on. Swift Werewolf says ship Showdown would be interesting if only sub 100 ships get voted to the top 4, such as the Gladius, the Herald, the Arrow, the Titan. Since sub 100 war bonds are few and far between these days versus others. Yeah, always interesting.
I don't think CIG thinks of it as like granting war bonds though, so much as they're like,
give me money.
Yeah, I think CIG is also in the mindset of like, we want certain ships to like make it to the top. I think because I've seen their rankings sometimes, and I'm like, why would you put that ship against that ship?
You don't say.
Favorites.
You don't say. Yeah. Me and Paul were both pushing the PTV, and they came to us and said, "No, we're cutting the PV off. You're not selling that shit."
Yeah. And they hated when we pushed the
MPUV. And then they realized, though, because they sold a shit ton of them, what we were trying to teach them was that they can make ships up in volume. And I don't think they realized that, and I don't think they learned from it, even after what we did. They have these plans, and if we break their plans, they don't agree with it, right?
Well, marketing gets upset.
Yeah. And we've said for years that, like, they don't quite understand the community, and it would just, why don't they start working a little bit with the community? And I think they would actually make more money. And it goes back to that whole way Sandy used to work, where she worked through passion. And it just, like, Algared will talk about it too. If you had been around since back, actually you would have been on the cusp of that. About, you said 8 years, so that's what, 2014, 2015?
I saw a little bit of it.
Yeah. And there was just this period where everyone closed their wallets because it went from passion to profit like almost overnight, and people went, well, I'm not buying anymore. And there was a period for like 4 years where it was really bad, where I didn't buy a single thing. And I know Algared was the same.
I kept buying stuff, but I certainly curtailed some of my purchasing.
All right, I'm going to flick this over.
Yep.
I don't know if it's going to work, but let's have a look and see if it... Okay, it's got Algared's phone on, because when last time Algared was on, right? So that's what the stream questions look like, by the way. If you ever want to know what they look like, that's what they look like. I'm going to turn it off, and then I'm going to turn Algared's camera on wherever he is. There he is. Right.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. This was set up for when he was on the phone, was the last time. All right, so, yeah. What were we talking about? I know I'm going to show off jump drives, but I just had a brain fart.
We were talking about ship Showdown, ships that would be good, ships under 100. I'd like to see some of the lesser known ships, like ships like the Gladius and the Herald, the Arrow. You know, we see them all the time. But ships under 100 that we never see. I'd love to see a Gladiator.
That's not under 100. That's
not under 100. I got to admit, but I'd love to see a Gladiator. I'd love to see ships like that we don't see all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the small ships. That's where you're going to see the volume sales, and I think that's what Swift Werewolf is really picking up. You know, those war bonds for those cheap ships would sell like hotcakes, and those cheap ships themselves will sell like hotcakes. That's certainly what they found with the MPUV. I know that marketing was apparently cheesed off that we'd ruin their sale, and then it was like, oh, we sold so many of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
And I think they could mix it up. That they wouldn't have to just sell the $100 ships, right? Like they could balance it by saying, okay, we're gonna put 5 100 sub $100 ships, and then
Yeah.
we'll put like some of our biggest $750 ships, $600+ ships
Yeah.
on the other side or something, and you could balance it that way.
Why does it have to be just one ship that wins the whole thing? Why can't you have a small, medium, large, and capital?
Yeah.
You know, that would solve the problem.
Or do multiple ship showdowns. Why do they only have to have one ship showdown?
Yep.
I get frustrated with
that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Like have a small, medium, large, and capital, because it also fits into their sales strategy. Because if you normally go to one like Invictus or IAE, they'll have a ship in every size category because then it appeals to more people. Again, if you've got a skin that backs the ship and you've got 4 of them, there are people who go out and they'll buy all 4 ships just so they can get the skins, you know, especially new people. But yeah.
And people who are like you, who like skins. So
yes.
I get frustrated with Ship Showdown in that it feels like every year for umpteen billion they've been saying, we're going to change the way Ship Showdown happens, and it doesn't seem to change every year, year in, year out. It just seems exactly the same.
Yep.
So yeah, I get frustrated by that. So
all right. So this is one of the ones they gave us for a giveaway. I believe this is one of the this is from Chinese New Year, like I think last year or this year or some shit. So I've had it for a while. Do you know how many times I've flown it? Zero times I've flown this. But yeah, if you go up here, you've got this door for the quantum drive, and you'll see here. I've got to turn the light on. Wait.
You do have to turn your light on.
It's not. Why is it not turning on? Oh, I don't. Are you telling me I don't? Oh, God damn it! That's what it is. Thank you, Algared. All right. Right. So you'll see here. There's a space above the quantum drive that's been filled in by a panel. So obviously they make all these to a metric of like they just make it to a metric, and if it doesn't have a quantum drive, they just fill it in with a panel.
So it doesn't take a jump drive. So there's a quantum drive below. No slot for a jump drive. So
and you can even see the clip. You can even see the clips that would be there if it was connected, right? So that's the example of the 100i. And now if we go back to the cutter to show that I'm not insane, we'll show the cutter, and it does have a gap above it. The other one I can think of, Algared, that you and I first discovered that on is the Spirit. I've just realized that's when it became really evident to us.
I always knew that was the case.
That's where you pointed it out to me.
That's you kicking and screaming to actually realise what was the case. Yeah.
And he's so dramatic. It was not kicking and screaming. Because, hey, have a look at this. Yeah. All right.
But yeah, that was certainly when you actually realised that I wasn't on crack or some other weird.
No, man, you make it sound like I never listen to you. No, I do listen to you. Between the ramblings and the frothing and the ooh girl swoozing, I do listen.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed me, I just try and make the other person sound really insane or eccentric. That's our thing. If we're not hating on you as Australians, we don't like you. That's just the way it works.
That's right. Yeah. You know that Australians don't like when they're super polite to you.
Yeah. Alrighty, I am having a bit of a frame stutter here because I'm trying to do multiple things at once, and the PC is starting to hate it. And it might also be the server a little bit. Right. Yeah. So yeah, excuse the frame rate because it is going to shit. All right. So here on the cutter, let's find the jump drive again. It's the shit. Which one is it? Relay, radar. There. So there you can see the gap. I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah, quantum drive. So you can clearly see. So you can see the little pegs that Algared rightly pointed out to me on that day. Right? So you can see where they connect in. And look, it's the same space that would have been above the other one.
But it's got a space where you put the clip.
Yeah, and
that's
we know
a weird space too.
Yeah. But it's essentially half a component higher. And we know the cutter goes through jump points. As an example, if you needed more proof, it was on the video yesterday. One of the ships that were going through was a cutter. But that all of a sudden totally changed the perspective of some ships. This is a cheaper ship than a 100i. And a 100i can't go through jump points. That's insane.
Yep.
That's crazy. So that is a system lock ship that costs more than one that, man, it just puts the cutter on a different level all of a sudden, does it not? To you, like it just, because we haven't even got there yet. Like once you realize that a 100i is going to need to be transported to go anywhere, that's a drawback, not a plus. That's like it's crazy to me. Yeah.
I think they're leaving room for the liberators and ironclads of the world.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 90 jumps and the Krakens and
yeah, it's really obvious to me what the Liberator is now. It is essentially a jump point transportation vehicle. Because why would you have all those people that kind of sit on there and not have the long range extendability to essentially transport them? Again, you may take them over multiple jump points though, but essentially that's why it's got such versatility on it, because you don't know what you're going to be taking. You don't know whether you're going to be taking a couple of ships or you're going to be taking a couple of vehicles. Where if you look at, say, something like the Ironclad assaults, you're only taking vehicles. And I will be really surprised, and I've said this to Algared before, I've probably even said it on stream before, I will be so surprised, again, if you think into the thing we said years ago, if you're going to sell ships, how do you sell them? You sell them from worst to best, because that's how they sell the most.
Yeah.
So what's coming last? The ship-only variant. Whatever that is, and it could be by Anvil, so we could get a Liberator variant that just does ships, or we could, again, I could see it in an Ironclad variant that just has, 2 pads or whatever. I don't think it's going to be the Ironclad, though, because of its design. But when I go back to the Liberator, if you kind of look at how the Liberator is kind of laid out, and I even said, wouldn't it be cool years ago? I don't know if they'll do this, but you know the one I'm talking about, Algared, where initially I said you could have a rotisserie thing, like the old cake things from the 1950s. You know how they used to do the cakes? Yep. You could buy them out of a, you'd open the door and then the next one would rotate in when you close the door. Or you could literally just have it so the top two retract, you land the ships in on the bottom and then they close again.
Yep. So, but as people have said in chat, the cutter is the best starter ship at the moment. And I think you're right. I think they're right.
Yeah. It is. It's definitely taken over from the Avenger just because it's 20. Oh, well, it's technically, what is it, $15 cheaper when they're on the right price. But again, it just shows you how overpriced luxury is. And I think you kind of hinted that a little bit at yourself earlier, Billion, when you were talking about guns and stuff. You're essentially saying combat ships are just essentially overpriced for what they are. Well, that's what I heard. Tell me if I'm wrong. Is that kind of?
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That's kind of right. Like, so if I'm buying a combat ship, I'm buying the guns, right? I'm buying the guns, I'm buying the missiles, I'm buying. So when my original point when I was saying that back then was like, if I'm buying the guns and it doesn't have enough guns, then the ship is overpriced, right?
Yeah.
So, if I'm going to buy a combat ship, it needs to have the amount of guns that I think are adequate for that price.
Yeah. And when ships are flight ready, they cost more, like they kind of go up in price. And combat ships are instantly front ready, so they are instantly more expensive. They don't ever get that kind of 3-step approach, because you kind of get concept, then you get like before they're flight ready, and then you kind of get flight ready. And now most ships go straight to flight ready anyway, but combat was already that. I think that's another reason why they want to go straight to that, because they don't have those 3 price jumps. They just instantly have. Again, like, why are they holding off certain ships? Because they want them to have gameplay. Well, look what happened with the Reclaimer. The Reclaimer's the best example. That was like, I think it was like 4 to 6 years. I have to go back and check it now. Of it just didn't have anything. It was just a flying ship that you couldn't do anything with. And now
people complained about that.
Yeah, because it sucked. It was still great to fly around, though. It was always an experience to fly that thing because it was just so different. But how long? It's not 5 to 6 years of difference, is it? It's just becomes a bit sad after a while.
Yep.
So yeah.
So Rooster 101 says that the 100i has a jump module according to the Matrix of Lies, and I know when they sell things, they may indicate that. But as we're looking at the actual ship in game, at present, based on what we can see in game, it doesn't have a jump module. Now,
but that can totally change. Yes, because again, like I said, they just changed that back panel module area, and all of a sudden that becomes a box instead of a box within a box. You can see how they've built everything modular. It's really obvious, because if you build that little space to a metric, essentially it's the same space in every single chip. All you're doing is changing the texture and normal map in the back area. It makes it really late. It's not lazy. It just makes it really efficient and quick to make.
I was going to say, it's not lazy, it's efficient.
Yeah, that's why I changed what I said.
Yeah. Good use of money.
Yeah. So again, you could just, again, when everything's to the same size, it means all the components fit in the same space. And you'll have seen it in other ships, right, where they've changed their mind. Because I can't remember how many it was off the top of my head, but I remember when they did the Saber, remember? And I think it had room for like 3 shields. And then when it came out, they'd filled one of them in and there was only 2. Or something like that. It was something to that effect, right? Where they dropped the number of them. And you'll see that in ships across the board. Because I actually reckon what they're going to do is they're going to more, say it's a medium ship, for example, they might always have space for 3, but then for balance reasons, they can just hide one of them. Because in the future, if they ever change their mind, they can just turn one back on. Now, it's a lot easier to turn one back on than model it for 2 and then have to go back and remodel the whole ship to put 3 on. You get my point, right? So I'd always be building it for more than for less, because then you can always just step backwards. And again, just hiding it ever so slightly. And you see it in other ships. Like I've seen it in multiple other ships now, like the Crusader series does it, where you could see it's literally got, room for 3 components, and they'll put 2 in, and then they'll block out a gap in the middle and a gap at the top and the bottom. And then in another ship, you'll see exactly the same space, but all 3 are fitted in.
Yeah.
It just saves work down the road.
There's discussion in YouTube about the C8, whether it has a jump drive or not. My take on the C8 having a jump drive, if it has, I'd have to go and have a look and see whether it's got the slot for it. But if it does, it makes sense for it, not because it's a snub for a Carrack, but because it is a snub for the Carrack.
Yeah. I would bet money on it having the jump drive because of the Carrack. And I know it's got one. Because of that.
It would have a jump drive because of the fact that when the Carrack finds those small jump points, they've got the small ship that can go through and then come back.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's a jump point that's too small for a Carrack, you'd be going, oh, I found a jump point. Gee, don't know what, can't map it, so I can't sell it. So I think that's why the C8 would have one.
Which is why we suspected when we first ever heard about the Pisces that it had to be some kind of wormhole scanning navigation ship. And then when it came out at ISC and we found it had the scanner, and then they got rid of it, we were like, we were right. They changed it. Yeah. So
anyway. That's a way to say we're done with that topic. Your take on if it changes to jump drives, I'm guessing, kind of invalidate ships like the Freelancer Doer due to it, as I see it, being almost more advantageous to use a larger ship and snub, or would the uncertainty of the endpoint make them worth it?
No, if anything, because of the transient jump points, it's made them more exploratory in nature, because you can now go find these temporary jump points and then navigate them. And again, it's got extra fuel tanks. So going back to the example from earlier with the Zeus ES versus the DER, and I know that it was the Terrapin, but I added in the DER, that was my whole point. The DER is going to be more favored at wormholes over the Zeus. Now, can the Zeus do it? Yeah, but it's not going to go as far as the DER is. I think you could, because this is the other part of it, right? You get dumped into a system on the other side, you don't know where you're going to come out, right? Now you tell me straight away, and I'll put this to Billion, right? Because I know what Algared's going to say, right? Because he's going to agree with me. But Billion, if I dumped you in another system, you didn't know where you were going to come out, and you had to say already use half your fuel to get there, what ship are you going to prefer to be in? The Zeus, or the one with the extra fuel tanks and the DER?
Well, I agree with you too. Yeah, I definitely want to be in the extra fuel tanks, because I don't want to have to call somebody to come get me in a system that I'm new to.
Yeah.
And especially if it's like Pyro, where you don't have like the same infrastructure where people are like actively out trying to help people. You go to Pyro, it's people out trying to gank you, right? So
the other thing with the Freelancer over that is the fact that they talked about, while the established jump points are going to just be everything, just large, able for every ship, The transient jump points are where we're going to see the small, medium, large criteria still holding. And maybe in terms of the map, I was just thinking of this, where we've got the small, medium, large configuration, that's saying, hey, the transient jump points from this one are only small, or medium or large, maybe. But if they've got a small jump point and it's still true that the Freelancer is the largest ship, can go for a small jump point, it's still got its versatility because it can go through the medium as well as the small, rather than just. So, yeah, I don't think it makes it invalid. I don't think it. In some sense, I think it's more advantageous. Certainly, it's going to be more advantageous to take the larger ship than a snub, especially if you can get through the small jump point.
Well, again, the carrot gets you there, then you're in the Pisces.
Yeah.
Now knowing that you don't know where you're going to come out, and you can't just necessarily turn around and come straight back.
Yeah, because they also said that as well.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that makes the Pisces. Well, I think that kind of speaks to why they removed the scan. I think about it. You send through that Pisces, right? You go through into a system. You have no idea where you came out. You are cut off from the Carrack. You're not going to send a Pisces through because it's not going to be able to have the fuel to get anywhere.
And you don't know where the entrance point for the jump point
you aren't going to be doing that anymore. You are going to find find it with the Carrack, then you're going to go back and get a ship that can navigate that jump point. That's why they've removed the scanners from the Pisces, because that's obviously way back then. I don't know how many years ago that is now. That's when I reckon they already know the jump points were going to change, because you're not going to send a Pisces through, because if it can't come back, why would you ever send it through? You'd be sending those people to their death potentially.
I think the original idea would have been you go there, the entrance where the exit point, it's the same point you use to get back.
Turn around and come back.
Change that now.
Yeah.
Totally invalidates the idea.
Unless it is a more permanent jump point. And we do know you'll be able to find those, but they'll be extremely rare. So the only time you'd send a Pisces through, if it is one of those, it wouldn't be a transient, it would be a permanent one. Because then you'd be shotgunned, well, essentially get shotgunned near the station, which is where the jump point is. So you'd be able to find the jump point fairly quickly and come back. But you wouldn't be able to do that with a transient one, because again, you don't know where they're going to come out.
And this is the other thing. Does that change if you find a transient that is almost permanent or mostly permanent?
Well, that's the question I have now. Are transient ones two-way? And again, if it is like, they've said, you can only use it one time and then it's gone. Well, you're definitely not going to send a Pisces, right? But if it is can you go through and come back? They didn't answer that. Is it all just one way? They didn't answer that. So,
And if you go back to the or anything on jump points, which with the Connie Aquila going through,
I've got more questions now, Algared.
But you know that when the Aquila first went through, the idea was it would go back.
Yeah.
And so we, as they said on the stream, the way they were doing jump points has changed. So the lore aspect hasn't changed. The way jump points were found, the way you go through and use a quantum drive with a jump point module, that hasn't changed. That's still the same, but the actual jump point mechanic is being changed. So, Lazarus has a question. With temporary jump points, do you think this will open up the ability to use the system that had its jump point collapse? Do you think it'll open up a way to get to the system that had its jump point collapse?
Yeah, well, that's definitely a part of it. We've always said that, isn't it? That they'll open it at some point for story reasons. And maybe it'll only be open temporarily. Like maybe there'll be a huge event to get a whole bunch of people out of there in time. Maybe it'll stay open for the rest of the game. Maybe they'll close it for the first 5 years, and then say the game goes for 10 years. They'll open it for the final half of the game. You just don't know.
One thing they have said about that is, they have looked for a jump point. They haven't found a jump point to it. Over time, the desire has waned, but it goes through periods where it waxes and wanes depending on interest.
You can already tell how the writers are going to do it. Some guy's going to turn up in a ship and claim that he's from there, and he has got no idea how he got there.
Yep.
And then the hunt will be on to find it. It's so obvious. Okay, so now they've heard that, and note change story. Yeah.
All right.
But it's really obvious. That's how I would do it. Like just some. Well, it's like what happened with the Banu. You know how the Banu and the human ran into each other, and they were like, "Oh." It's similar thing to that, but it's just like some guy turns up and he maybe because they've been cut off for 100 years. Maybe they speak slightly different languages, or he's wearing really weird clothing because they've developed their own culture and all that type of shit. And then he's just like, I lost. I not know where I am. Help me, sick. And to everyone else, he's just some homeless random dude. But you take the time to get to know him, and all of a sudden you realize he's from this other place. He doesn't know where it is or how to get back there. Connect the dots, and
my conspiracy theory is that Vandal are trying to get home to Sol because they're long lost humans and morphed and mutated over time.
Yeah. My theory is that is correct, and they had really obscene scientific experiments done on them by evil, crazy Dr. Old Man Hurston. Yeah. So
anyway.
That's called a punchline, kids. You leave it right to the end, and that's when it becomes funny. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't think it was funny.
Of course you wouldn't.
All right. Okay. Stargazer had the question, and this one I think it's for Billionaire because I know what our answer is to this. So, Billionaire, do you think, this is from Stargazer, do you think they will have different variants of the Terrapin, like cargo, data, etc.?
I think it would be a really bad idea if they didn't. I think obviously a combat variant makes sense with how tough it is and the fact that it's just a big turret right there for the scanner. I think you could.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you could easily just replace the scanner with a turret. I'm just saying how easy it would be. I think it would be fairly easy for them to just be like, all right, this is a turret now.
Oh, because of the seat.
Now.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. And I also think a search and rescue variant would make sense as well. But do I think they'll do it? If the money's right, yes. Especially if they're charging 200 for that ship.
I think that combat variant you're talking about, the place you would most likely see that is Squadron 42 related. So you know how we've seen leaks of where ships have come out and they're like mishmashed together? A mishmash Terrapin where that's turned into a turret. I don't think for gameplay reasons that they would put a turret on it. Because the other thing is there 2 utility scanners or 2 utility mounts, so it's technically a different mount. But Squadron 42 does break rules of the PU system. Search and rescue variant, we know they made a video that had them in it, so they've already kind of hinted at it. And I'll let Algared tell you about the last variant because I'd be in agreement with him, and I know exactly what. Look, I know him. I know what he's going to say. Go ahead, Algared.
Well, we do know there is a search and rescue variant, but we also know in lore the Marines have actually got a dropship variant. It's cramped, but they like it because it gets them where they want safely.
Because, and again, you look at the military variant of the scanner, it can lock itself down, lock those sensors down. Essentially, it's almost like a cloak because you are turning off your emissions for a short period of time. Yes, it kind of overheats the ship and it can only do it, and then it's got to like vent it afterwards. But again, if you turn that on, it can get you in and then get out and then vent all that shit. So it is essentially the closest thing you're going to get to a cloaking ship in Star Citizen. I know that's a really weird way to analogize it, but if you think of it like that, that is why that ship is going to be so popular, because it is almost like a cloak. It's not a cloak, but it's the closest we're going to get.
When stealth revolve, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go
on. When stealth revolves around the signature that you're giving off, that makes total sense. That'd be a cloak ship. Yeah.
And if you use stealth components, and then turn half your components off, you can close up that ship, and you'd be able to go a longer time before it got too hot, and then you had to vent.
And I think the only other thing was the stealth paint from Aegis, but that is not exactly proven yet. Is where I'd leave that, but that's the only other stealth thing we've kind of heard of. So, like Algared said, the components. Locking stuff down, and I think the Terrapin's the only one that kind of does that. And then obviously the last one would be the paint. But again, could we see a kind of lockdowning ship from Aegis? That would be interesting. The triple stealth mechanic, essentially. It's the only manufacturer that could do it right now, yeah? Am I wrong in that, Algared?
No. I think that's probably the only ship, certainly the only ship that can lock itself down and shield and
like a bear
run its system still be
a bear
shielded.
Was it the bear cat or the wild claw or what the fuck is that called again? The bear cat. You know the one I'm talking
Bear
about.
claw.
Yeah.
The bear
One in
claw,
Lore,
the
but
cat claw, or something like that. There's a couple of different variant names of it. But again, if they're all claw based, so like bear claw, cat claw, or whatever, you could have a variant of it that is tailored at stealth. That would be sick. So you got the stealth paint, the scanning, and oh man, and the lockdown ability of the Terrapin. I will buy that ship because it'd be the most stealthy ship in the game. But I think the drawback would obviously have to be, unlike the Terrapin, you can't have more people on it. So it makes it a little bit more like the ES. And when I say the ES, I mean the Razor ES. It is the ES, isn't it?
Is the EX, I think.
EX. God, man, I hate the names for the Razor.
No, I had one of those.
LX. It's, oh god, I think it's
it's the base variant, the LX, and then the EX.
It's the black one. I always call it the black one because I can never remember the bloody
black one's the EX, yeah.
EX. Ray. It is the EX. Yeah, it is the EX, yeah. Which stands for Explorer. I think it's Explorer personally, but because that at the moment is probably the most pinnacle single man stealth ship because it's so small you can't see it and it's built for speed. So it's relying on it's really hard to see, gets in, visually finds something, and then gets the hell out, right? Where a Terrapin's going to kind of go in, like you see in the videos. It's just stationary on a rock. It locks itself down and just tries to find a bunch of stuff, and then just essentially scurries away, and then unvents itself. Because the thing is, the less you're doing in that ship, the longer you're going to be able to sit there tucked away.
Yep, and that's why the Marines like it.
It's also why it's a solo person ship, because if you have one person in it, you're going to be like 2 people is in a combat scenario, right? But you're only going to want the one person in it because he's going to lock the whole ship down and then go sit back on his turret and just sit there and observe. He's going to have the time to do that because if he's seen, he's dead anyway, right? And then if they find you because you've got a vent early or whatever, that's when the shit hits the fan. That's why you got the armor, because you're like, oh, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Yep. And you just hope that you survive, your armor lasts long enough.
Well,
right, next question. This one's
wait. Well, I think Billion should read his own question.
I was going to read it and tell him he had to answer the question.
Oh, okay. Right.
And not tell him it was him, but you've just blown it. You
go for it. I like that.
You do exactly what I do. Yeah. So here's a question for you. I'm going to ask you the question. Knowing what you know now, what do you think will be your primary gameplay loop when Star Citizen launches?
Well, this is actually an excellent time to talk about why my name is Billionaire Ninjas. So the idea, obviously, money is the primary, there's no levels and stuff like that. I know they talked about getting better at running and stuff like that, but money is the primary goal in this game, unless you just, want to hang out. But the idea is to become a billionaire, and I want to own my own, I don't know what I'll be allowed to own, but I'd like to own my own city, planet, whatever. Planet is the goal, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to, have a Hurston,
I can't even envision what it takes to manage a city in this game. Imagining a planet, like an outpost.
So it might be a smaller scale.
I think
it might be a smaller scale.
Yeah, I think an outpost would be almost too much for one person, let alone a city. Because a city would require a bunch of people, I think. Yeah, but that's crazy to me. But yeah,
I don't know what I'll be able to do, but that's my crazy idea. But on a more realistic note, just managing an outpost, I think I would like to have like interconnected outposts. My primary goal is going to be science and then construction. So kind of those go. Science is what I want to do, like my primary gameplay. That's why I have 3 endeavors, because I want 3 of them to be running.
So I got to ask, is it science? And you got to look at what I'm doing here. Is that science or is it science? I'm just curious.
Well, it's primarily Bunsen burner, science. Okay. And then maybe if the price is right, the other type of science.
That's wrong, but bitch.
But I think science is the game. That's when I found out that there would be science in the game. I think that's what really drew me to the game. And then when I found out that you could essentially build things in the game and you know, have that construction aspect. That's the other thing that brought me. So those are the two things I look forward to the most. The science stuff for the fun, and then the building stuff to kind of have my own little outpost and have these interconnected outposts where, you know, people are doing deliveries from one of my outposts to another one, and you know, that's kind of the gameplay I'm looking forward to, kind of running that.
I think you might have found a friend, Algared.
Yep.
Algared wants to do similar stuff.
My gameplay loop is to find a struggling, you know, go to a Tavaran settlement that's struggling, or, you know, run down and not surviving, and actually see if I can actually improve it to the point where it's a thriving community. So I'd love to build a thriving community and see how it goes.
Yeah, and then
there it is.
And then when it gets to that, and then when it gets to that point, that's when he ships in all the UEC girls and goes to town. Yeah.
Oh, that's when I apply the work contracts.
Right.
The Hurston Dynamics work contracts. That's right.
And he's going to call it New Hurston. Yeah.
New Hurston. That's right.
Or New Lawville or whatever. Yeah.
New Hurston. No, New Hurston sounds good. You know, like yeah.
I really haven't decided. I get this sneaking suspicion just because of my knowledge base. I'm probably going to be a hyper generalist. So I'm probably going to just be helping other people and like going where I'm needed, you know? I kind of think I'll probably be in some org where I just go around filling gaps. You know, I it's like that in a lot of games I play. I don't tend to stick to one thing. So like, even if I take, say a game that's got multiple classes in it, right? Yeah. I will play every class. Now, I'm not the best at every class, but I can still play like at the highest difficulty. But if I play with someone that only plays one class, yes, he will be better than me. But my knowledge base will be better than him because I know all the things across. And like I got people that I play with, like he's playing one class and he would deliberately ask me questions about another class and I'll fill them in. So a lot of the games I play, and especially as I get older, so one of the ones I'll talk about is Hunt Showdown, right? I love Hunt Showdown, but I can't click heads anymore. I just can't do it. I just don't have the speed as I get older, right? But I will play with two younger guys that are in their 20s, right? And they find it invaluable to play with me because I can go, they are coming from over there and they're going to there. And they don't even question why, because they know I know my data and I can tell where they are, and I also can hear them and all this other stuff. So they just go, I just click over there. I go, there's two guys over there behind that bush, and they just turn, click their heads, and they die. Like, and the two guys I play with just find that absolutely invaluable, because they don't have that information. But it's that teamwork mentality, and they're the games that I really enjoy. At the end of the day, is teamwork. So. I go back to the initial peel, and Algared will relate to this as well, is we both got Constellations, really the first kind of ship we moved into, because we wanted to play with our friends in a multi-crew environment. So I think a lot of what I do, I'll just call it that. I want to do multi-crew stuff.
Yeah, my very first ship was a Connie. Yeah. Was the Connie game pack, because I figured, oh, that's me and my mates. It's the second ship I got was an Aurora, so that I could actually do my solo gameplay with a ship that I could change components on. Oh, the feel of just going on. What I know now.
It did say game in development in the notes. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Don't worry, Algared. I'm still looking for the day that me and you go out in our Hornets and we go mining. I just can't wait to do that. It's be the best thing ever. The comments from back in the day, man.
But you know, back in the day, the idea of being able to top things around and put different things on ships. You could see the game was in development. You could see the way things have gone, and yeah.
Have you read any of those old comments like that, billionaire? Like, because there were comments back then, because when it had a cargo pod on it, it still does. The mounts were all universal, so you could essentially put a mining laser on a Hornet and mine with it.
Yeah, I do remember seeing stuff like that, and I was confused at the time, but now that you're showing, I'm like, okay, now that makes sense.
And I can remember when they changed that, when they said, you know, we've put the pipes in, and now we've now got weapon mounts and universal mounts.
Wow.
or utility mounts.
Well, what I'd say it's even different now. I'd have to go double check, but I'd almost say it's like mining mounts now as well.
Yeah.
It's different because you can't just, well, you've got the sorting, you've got, and all that type of stuff. Yeah. Like you can't just put, like, for example, I couldn't put a mining mount on a Terrapin because it doesn't have the facilities on the other side to take those materials in.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the tubes and the piping to do that. So the second they started putting the piping in on the ships and actually working out what it was and the wiring and the power, then they went, oh no, we can't have that on weapon ships. Weapon mounts.
I'd also ask the question: can I take a scanner and put that on a mining mount? And I would say no, you can't. So
that's right.
Yeah.
So it's as the game has developed and they've actually realised and gone through what makes sense on the ships, they've gone, that's got to go, that's got to go, that's got to go.
It has been a hot minute since they talked about this stuff, but I think it's kind of obvious now. Yeah, and there's other weird layover things too, like the ball turret mounts on ships and stuff. You know, like so you've got different turrets on the Buccaneer to what you've got on the Hornet. So and there are others as well. I'm almost wondering if they're going to. I don't think they'll ever unify those because, again, I think they're just going to have bespoke stuff. And I think the other one that I think of is like the nose guns on the Vanguard is another one. I think just some ships have bespoke shit, and that's just how you got to live with it. There is no way around it.
Yep.
And that happens in real life too. Yeah, you have adapters and converters and stuff like that. I'd be really interested to see if any of that shit ever comes to pass. Because, like, let's go back to the Terrapin example that we were talking about. What happens to those two mounts? Because obviously, if you think about it, if you're doing a search and recovery variant, is it just the bed becomes a medical bed? But what do you lose? So my brain goes to is you lose one of those scanners, but in return, the bed becomes not your own bed, but it becomes like a medical bed, and the power from the bottom. Well, let's say it's the bottom one, right? I don't know which one it's going to be, but that gets put to the medical bed instead. Does that make sense to you guys? That's kind of where my brain goes, or am I off the mark on that one?
You could be off the mark, but I would expect it's something like that. You know, where there's always checks and balances. If you give something to one, you pay Peter, you take
the Lord giveth and taketh away. Yes, it is that. Yes, very much.
Rob Peter to pay Paul, as the old saying was. You know.
No, that makes sense.
You keep the balance just by taking something away. So yeah.
Well, here's the other thing. Do you make it so it? I go back to the Terrapin. What is the lock? Oh, that's kind of interesting. I don't know. Just put this back to you guys. The ability to lock down and stealth in a search and recovery vehicle. What do you get out of that? The only thing I can think of is it's a combat search and recovery vehicle. Because if you can lock yourself down and you're in, we'll put it this way: the Vandal are not going to agree to the Geneva Convention type of thing. They're going to shoot at ambulances. So that if you can stealth in and recover someone, that's pretty cool, really, if you think about it. It gives it a unique thing because you're not going to be able to do that with a Pisces or a Galaxy. I don't know. I put that back to you two. That's the only thing I can think of. What other advantage does that? Sorry, Billy, go ahead.
No, that makes sense. I think you could also, retrofit it with, I don't know, what is that? The same technology that they have in the Prowler, where the stealth variant gets, the ability to actually see outside the ship when it has those closed, whereas the other variants can't do that. And then, it can actually fly around with that armor on. Getting that camera system.
It's going to be pretty awkward when they make the Devaran medical beds, though, and it's just nests, and you've got to lie in the straw. It's going to be like Geralt from The Witcher in the hot tub, but it's a nest.
Yeah, I would expect to have seen ships like the Terrapin leverage a lot more of that Devaran tech.
Yeah.
So we know that shield tech, we know that air shields and things are literally stolen from it or taken as spoils of war from a Devaran. It would have been nice to see, and I know because the Terrapin came out before we saw the Devaran ships, but it would have been nice to have seen that kind of incorporated into that ship where it was using that Devaran tech to see out. But yeah, maybe down the track we will see a variant that does that. So
well, apparently, like I've never really gone back and got confirmation on this, but it was said that even the Cutlass is meant to have air shields on the side doors. So we'll see what happens with all that and how that all pans out.
I know that originally the idea of air shields was that they basically only bases and capital ships had air shields because they were supposed to take so much power. They were supposed to be that power intensive. So, so I can remember way back where, you know, who was, oh, why don't we have air shields on this? And it was because the argument was given that it's because air shields are so power hungry, you can't put them on smaller ships.
Again, lore can change, but also it could. I put this to you, Algared, right, as an example, and I know you hate to think of this idea, but say the Cutlass Steel, it would actually give it a kind of bit of a little leverage over the other ships. You know, if you could also have the air shields. I don't know. I put that idea out there.
My problem with the Cutlass, and again, this is
Steel
picking up
specifically,
is Cutlasses and Drake ships are already overgunned on the frame.
Yeah,
weapons are already drawing too much, drawing power. So you're actually you're overgunned, your frame's overgunned, or you've got too many guns for your weapon. You've got the steel with extra guns already. You're putting air shields on the ship that uses extra energy. What are you taking away in terms of what it gives? If you're giving it air shields and air shields take energy and weapons take energy, surely you've got to take some weapons away. And that's going to, oh, no, you can't do that to my Drake ship because, but that's my problem with Drake, you know, so, or the sorry, that's my problem with the steel. But yeah. Rajex has a question. Do you think the change in jump point size restrictions impacts lore? E.g., thinking of a kingship, suddenly it can skip the gauntlet of defenses via large jump points. Vandal space is now 3 jump points from Sol. Well, I think Vandal space is 1 jump point from Sol, but that's something we haven't talked about.
Yeah, it's really obvious if you look at the star map. It is super bloody obvious. Sol's only got 2 jump points in, 1 in and 1 out. And you look at most systems, they have like 3 or 4. And you look at it, and the way they're positioned, they're both pointing in the same direction. And then you look around it, and you're just like, oh, I wonder how many this could connect to. Because there's like 3 systems it could connect to without even blinking. It's so obvious.
I think that, so I think that's the case. And I know from talking with Aaron way back in the day, and this could have changed, is that, the idea was that Vandal would sack Earth because it's a bit like Earth is equivalent. If you're looking at the story of a Roman Empire and the fall and decline of a Roman Empire, Sol is Rome, and Terra is Byzantium, or Constantinople, and
it literally says Vandals and Vandal. Like it's one extra U.
So the Vandals sack Rome.
Yeah.
The Goths and the Vandals sack Rome. That's why we use Vandal as a term for people who graffiti and wreck places, because they wreck Rome. But in the history, in that decline of a Roman Empire, Constantine establishes Constantinople, goes to a little dirt town, Byzantium, and says, no, this is a new capital because I can have my armies close to all the hotspots and we can get there quickly. And it becomes a new capital. And so you had this rivalry between Rome and Byzantium, the East and the West. And that's basically what we've got in Star Citizen, the fall and decline of the UEE. So, or the decline and fall of the UEE, I should say.
Fidgeting, Wham! Fidgeting.
So in answer to the question, no, I don't think the size restrictions changes impacts lore. And I think we even saw that in Squadron 42 in that the cutscene where we had them having the fighters doing the search around the jump point, because they don't know where the ships are coming from. They expect the attack, they expect it to come through the jump point, but we don't know whereabouts they're going to come through. So we've got to patrol that area to find them.
Let's ask Billion his thoughts on that, because I want to see if he's kind of come to the same. Have you come to the same kind of conclusion there, Billion, or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think when I think of like the size restrictions in relation to lore, I think they're really just now that they're changing, how it works as far as the gameplay. I think it still kind of fits as far as the transients. Like as long as they have the transients, they can keep that lore going. But I don't think that the larger ships being able to fit through those jump points is going to be that big of a deal. I think a larger ship fitting through a jump point, all that does is say, well, there's a different ship that can come out on the other end. Whereas I think if we're talking about the smaller ships are, what I hope they do at least is you can go through the jump point faster. It's easier for you to go through a jump point maybe because they're the size that they talked about hitting the edges of the jump point, right? Like if you hit it, it causes distortion damage. Well, a larger ship might be more likely to hit the edges of the jump point.
Agreed.
So, it has to, maneuver a lot more.
It also means, does a jump point necessarily have to be smaller, or does it just have to be hard to navigate? And when you start to think of it in those terms, a big ship is just not going to be able to turn and navigate like a smaller ship. And I think when you call it, like, so that's why I've said that what I was trying to kind of get at, I should probably spell it out because I probably just realized I haven't, is I still think medium and large ships will be able to go through those transient ones, not the capitals though, because I still think some large ships, so let's say a Carrack as an example, it can turn, but nowhere near as much as, say, a Terrapin or a fighter, because again, so again, just the more difficult it becomes, the harder it becomes. It's not a size restriction anymore. This is what you mean by stability, Algared, isn't it? Not what you were talking about with Hayes. You use the word stability. I'm using the words hard to navigate.
But I think it's the same type of deal. Whether it's one that lasts for a long time, whether it's stable, and the idea of stable being able to navigate and go through. Here's the thought for the C8, and this kind of picks up Monster AV's question, which is the next one, which is with the new jump point exits, how will smaller ships like the C8 work if it puts them too far from the entrance back to the file ranges?
And that's the one thing we have to find out about the transient stuff. Is transient still two ways? Because I've also said transient might be only one way. So there's two questions there. How do you tell how many times it can be used, and is it two-way?
Here's a thought in terms of the use of a C8. If you send ships through ducks in a row, the C8 flies ahead of the Carrack
and navigates for it. True.
Helps navigate, and so you've got that symbiotic relationship between the Carrack, the mothership, and the small ship.
And does it become someone such a good pilot that they can navigate a Carrack through what technically only a really elite pilot can do, and then they sell that to someone that can't fly for shit? Okay, Algared.
And that gives you the ability to also tie in with use of the P-52 with the Aquila, because you've got that idea of a ship, almost that umbilical cord of information going backwards and forwards from the mothership to the snub. And so if it's flying ahead and it's giving you that information, the bigger ship's able to record it in more detail. So I could see it working. Have they said that? No. But could it be? Yeah, maybe. So
I think Rajak was also making that point about the gauntlet of defenses, where it's like you literally had to go to like more dangerous zones to get your big ship to this other safe zone. And I think so I kind of missed that when I spoke earlier, but I that's a great point. But I also think not having to go through those gauntlets, they can create other mechanisms to make up for that, right? Like if the idea is like you have to put this big ship is going to be able to get easier access to this place, they could put other things that make it harder, like we were talking about, where it's harder to get it through that jump point. You have to have somebody has to have already traversed it with a larger ship in order for you to use that jump point or something like that. Or
well, here's the question, right? This is leading to what you're saying, and I said this to Algared yesterday. Does that mean now every single system has a permanent jump point? And that's a massive question. Because if if I can only get to system X and it's only transient jump points, that literally means I can't get an Idris to that system.
Well, here's a thought, but
or I can't get it out. I can't get it out. I built it there and it's not coming out.
Here's a logic issue for you.
Yeah.
You need the defenses at a jump point for things coming out.
Mm.
We don't know where the exit for a jump point is in particular, but all the defenses for a jump point are at the entrance. Why do we need defenses at the entrance of our jump point?
Because the entrance is always the same, the exit is always different.
Yeah, that's right. So where do you want your defenses to protect from people coming through the other end? At the exit?
Well, I think most systems should have defenses all around the outer rim of their,
which is also why you have the station. Yeah. But that's what I was hitting on yesterday in the video, Algared, where I was saying, like, why the hell are they having all these defenses? Why are they taking time for you to spool up to leave when they if you just go closer to the my first thought, they were literally saying if you're spooling up to get the jump point, if you're spooling up to get to the jump point and someone tries to go in front of you and they're too close to the jump point, they'll get bounced out. Well, that just means you've got to go as close to the jump point as possible, and they can't get between you and the jump point, so they can't stop you. So I was just like, this is so dumb.
And if they're not spooled up to go, then if they get too close, they just get pushed out of the way. And if they are spooled up to go, well, then they're going to be yanked along with you anyway. So
I thought it was weird when they said that too, because I was thinking like, well, what if somebody, in order to block the jump point, they just spool up like they're about to go through the jump point and then they just don't go. They just get close and then they don't go. That's the way you would block the jump. I'm sorry for putting that out there, but that seems like the way that a person would block the joint.
You'd have to get in position, line up, then take yourself offline. And I think the second you put yourself offline and are no longer spooled up, you don't get the effect.
I think the jump point's big enough, though, that even the biggest ship in the game couldn't block other ships from going through.
Okay.
So even if you had a javelin, like, do the math, I still think you've got enough of an angle and space. Like, again, they showed, like, 6 ships, essentially, all in a circle type of thing. I don't think it matters how big your ship is. You would need, I think you'd need, 20 javelins to block.
To block it. Okay.
Yeah, I think you'd need a lot. And
that might explain why they got rid of the rings too.
Well, this is the last part. Can you enter a jump point from any side? We don't know that yet. Because if it is literally spherical, we don't know. You know, again, as I said, there's so many questions that have come out since yesterday.
Yeah.
that like they've answered one question, changed one thing, and now all the questions over the years have just all become revalid. It's really interesting because I just we know that there were systems that only had small jump points, and so only small ships were going to get in there. Now my question is, if all jump points have at least one permanent, that means Idrises and Krakens can get into every single system. Or do you just make it so they're so hard to navigate you can't get a Kraken in there? You see where I'm going with this? There's questions there, or is it only? Is there going to be a system where it's only got transient jump points?
And that raises the question that Raygun asked. Maybe we'll be able to get to the Orantari system. It's the one with the collapsed jump points. So, maybe. Certainly that'll be something that I think CIG will put in at some point.
It's like what we said yesterday, Algared. They need to do a Q&A on this. And when I say a Q&A, don't do a Q&A. You just need to come out and answer all the questions that we would have. Because if you put it up, do the 10 for the Tamman questions, someone's going to ask, will this fit in the jump point? I guarantee it, right? It's it's just those 10 for the fact that you can't downvote those things is just, I'm sorry, I'm going to use the word retarded. You cannot, you just can't.
Retarded, it's retardus.
You're giving my joke away for the thing. How can I use that for next week's stream now if you're going to give the title away?
People have short memory.
Yeah.
And you are fearful that it'll get, cancelled.
You say anything now that's negative and you just get bitten in the butt.
But yeah, I got it. I said it yesterday in the premiere as we were filming. I love that Easter egg to Doctor Who and the TARDIS going through the wormhole. So yeah. The other thing I thought of with jump points yesterday was they were talking about gases coming off the jump point, and I'm thinking jump points are basically quantum gases and all the other stuff. You rip them open. And I was like, could you actually take a mining ship, a fuel ship, and harvest the gases? And what type of gases would we get? Would it reopen the? And I know this is they killed this, but could it reopen harvesting quantum gas? So there's another question for you to put it into
I still think gas collection is a thing. I just don't think quantanium is a gas. I think they changed it to a solid.
They changed it to. They made it.
I think the thing that speaks more to the still being gas collection is the fact that the fact that the prospector doesn't mine down anymore. That tells me, and yet 6 months prior to that, they confirmed that gas collectors are still a thing. So you do the math. They've essentially taken something away from the prospector because they're going to make another ship that can do gas collection on its own. That's a small ship. It's really obvious. Those, again, we're getting into that territory of that there's just so many ships that we know that they're going to exist because they've talked about it and hinted to it, like agriculture. We've got. Will
they be able to? But will we have gas collecting ships? But would it be an area where they could do gas collecting? But,
So things like the modules on the Caterpillar can do independent climate control. The 400i can do it, but we don't really have anything really super dedicated to that. We know monster, essentially monster hunting. I was going to say, but it's what do you call it? Big game hunting is the thing. Where does science go? We've got 2 science ships in the entire game. One is essentially a sample collector, and the other one is it's just got these like a research lab and a scientific lab, but they've never really articulated what that is. And to me, if you think about how big exploration is, how big is science going to be? Is that finding cures for diseases? That's 1. Is that making drugs? That is 2. What level does that go to? That might be another interesting episode to sit down and find some science people and go, that might be the first point of view I've done in a really long time, but I might reach out to some scientists. If you're listening to this and you're a scientist and you got any interest in that, reach out to me and Algared and we'll set up an episode, because I'd like to know what are the different areas of science, because obviously medical falls under the science field as well. So what again, that's what those discussions always were, those professional point of views, was taking real world people, and I would take my game development knowledge and gamify it, and every single one of them bore fruit that we still talk about to this day, but we just kind of ran out of professions because they weren't developed enough, and it's really hard to find some of these people. If I'm going to talk about a super collider, where do I go find someone that knows anything about a super collider? For the module on the Endeavour, things like this. So these people are not easy to find. One of the hardest ones that we did was the scanning and ping one. I had to find a sonar operator and a submarine operator. Do you know how specific that is? That is insane. And it took me 6 months to find them. But I did, and then we did it, and it was bloody awesome, because it just told me shit that I'm just a man. I do not. That's the one. This show, doing the professional point of view stuff, is so bloody humbling, because you just learn so much, and you're like, my brain so small, me know nothing. It cavemans the shit out of you, because you think your brain always tells you know all this shit and you know the answer. You don't, because you've only got the relative information to draw on. And that goes back to that whole speculation thing, isn't it? It's why we never do it alone, because your brain always tells you you're correct. And then I'll say something, and Algared is like, are you on drugs? What the hell are you talking about? Because he's got different experiences to me. And every person you add to that, it just refines it. So again, if you're in a room of 10 people, and generally but also generally if they're all in agreement, you're onto something.
Format has a question. Does the whole process to use a jump point make it impossible to flee a system if you have a bogey on your tail? Like having to wait at a bus stop in a police chase.
Yeah, I haven't really thought of that. Yeah, because if you're chasing a criminal, how the hell does he get away?
I think that's where the the transient jump points will be useful. So you've got to
Agreed.
know you've got your transient jump point, and then hope that it's still there when you how to use it.
So I can see Algared now when I'm doing the bank vault stealing. He's sitting there in the getaway car, ready to go off to the transient jump point that he found last week. Did you? Yeah. Go.
Yeah.
Well, you can see how valuable data like that's going to be. We need a jump point so we can do this this heist or whatever. You know. What's our getaway?
Find a hideout point.
Yeah. What's our going to be? And that's
you got to find a hideout point before you get there.
Is there going to be jump points that literally open for a week, close for a week? We're going to hang out here for 2 days before we can get out of this system, but we have to do it on this day, so we've got to hide in the system for 2 days.
Yeah.
Oh, you can just see the gameplay. It's amazing. I love it.
You got to leave on the high tide, otherwise. Yeah.
Well, isn't it to put it in a really weird turn of phrase, like in the movies where they're dodging the lasers, but you're just dodging the cops within the system, so you can get out. You know what I mean? Like I love it. It sounds awesome to me. That cat and mouse shit would be exciting as shit, and you'd be like, I've learned to embrace tension in games. Like once you've played really high tension games like Hunt Showdown, you live for that tension, because when you're on that adrenaline high, nothing like when you first get into it, it'll make you panic, right? It's that fight or flight mechanic, and once you get used to that adrenaline, you're a military guy, right, Billion? So I don't know if you've seen combat, but I put that out to you. The more you get used to the adrenaline, it normalizes it. Yeah. If you don't want to talk about it, let me know. I just realized I asked you an awkward question, but if you want to, go nuts. Just tell me what you want to do there. I don't know. I just kind of threw you under a bus.
No, it's fine. Yeah. So I was in 2 combat tours, one in Afghanistan and one in Iraq. That is somewhat true. The more you feel the adrenaline, the less, I guess, gets pumped into your brain, it feels like. So it becomes kind of a normalized thing. And so, without going into other stuff that can cause, one of the things that does happen is you get this muscle memory from it. And when we talk about muscle memory, you can think of your brain as one of those muscles as well. And you just start to get used to it. It gets used to doing the same thing over and over again.
Well, that's why you train, yeah?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Sorry to pull you into that, but I thought it was a good example. I thought while you're here, I'll pull you in.
No, I'm really good at deflecting, so don't worry about
it. It's interesting because I can remember seeing some stuff on NFL, and they were talking about new players coming into the actual, the main comp, and how when they first get in, everything's super fast, and as they play the games, then everything just slows down, and they can see what's going on. I imagine it's the same type of thing.
Yep.
As you get used to it, it just slows down. It doesn't feel as fast, and that's easy.
You kind of get used to the speed. I can think of that in games. I can't speak to combat, but I'd have to assume it's somewhat similar. As you get used to the movement of things, you just seem to get into the motions and the muscle memory, and roll with the punches. Yeah.
Yep. Format. No, we answered Foggy's formats question. Sebastian, do you think that all ships will be able to open the jump points they find, or only specialized ships like the Carrack?
They did mention that all ships will be able to plot jump points, right?
I think it's
just
that shooting thing, right? That's the one thing I was like, where's that coming from? Is it has to be a part of the jump drive, obviously. But what's it shot out of? Is that a part of the emitters? Like there's going to have to be something that's shot off, and ships that can do jump points are going to have it. So I'm wondering what it is that, it just doesn't come out of a gun. Like, what's it coming from? Is it from the shield? Where's it shot from? Because you know how you're attuning. Is it part of the attunement process? So your shield, is it the shield just shooting between, or again, it's a great question.
And given that we know that the original, the shooting made sense to me because it picked up the law of the, a faulty quantum drive was giving off the quantum energy, which caused the rift to open. And now you're actually using a system to actually force it to open. But again, where's that shot coming from? And it seems to say it has to come from a quantum drive. But what's the device you're using to shoot that from?
So interesting to see. Again, need a bloody Q&A. Really quickly, I'm going to shut the bot off in a couple of minutes. So if you want to get your question in, we're down to less than 10. If you want to get a question in, I'm going to turn it off in a couple of minutes. So yeah, get your question if you want to. Otherwise, you're going to miss out.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you
So-
think, Billion? Do you think you need some kind of thing to shoot it off there, or do you think it's some kind of thing just shooting off the attuned shield? What's your thought process there?
I actually do think it would shoot off of something like some field around the actual shield, right? Because when we do quantum jumping, right, like it forms this like kind of bubble around us as we go through, right? So they've shown that you can form some type of energy around the ship without it having to come out of any particular port or anything like that. So it makes sense that it forms something like that, and then maybe it just shoots automatically.
And we
know
it
only is it capable of doing that if you have that part.
Yeah, and we know that emitters are a thing now since the Raelian come out, and you can have different numbers of emitters around the ship to form your shield. So I wonder if it comes out of the emitters, or is it a different thing all again that we haven't heard of yet? So I've got so. How can such one ISC generates like I know the people that are watching have been here for most of them because we're in that quiet period. I have to put it out to you. Like, I'll do it as a poll, but as an ISC, I don't think I've ever had one that's made more discussion for me than anything in literally the last 5 years. Algared and Billion, I put that back both to you. Yeah, it is a monumental ISC, is it not? Or am I overreacting?
No. I from my perspective, it was like I said yesterday as we're starting. This is probably the biggest ISC in terms of giving us new information. And I know that I saw in chat people saying it didn't give us any new information. And yet, like I said, it kept the lore aspect the same, but the mechanic was detailed in more detail. And the way they changed the mechanic, and they said, small, medium, and large jump points are gone. At least that was huge. That was massive. So yeah.
All right. So poll started on YouTube. Just doing it on Twitch now.
He started on there a while ago. I saw a message pop up, but that's okay. What do you think, Billionaire or Ninja?
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth. I think I kind of agree with you that there's this kind of wait, hold on. Sorry, my dog is like biting at my leg right now.
Better than humping it, but yeah. Interesting. So 67% on YouTube are saying no. I find it really interesting. Okay.
What'd they say no to?
That it's not.
Yeah.
Was this ISC the biggest one in years? Was the question I put out. And yeah, it's almost 50-50 split at the moment on YouTube. It's about 57-43, and there's only one person that's voted. Look, I'll vote on Twitch, so that at least it's 50-50 split.
I think
done.
I think it's yes. I think about it, and I was trying to think of one that was bigger, and I can't. I think it's because when you add certain type of gameplay to the ship or to the game, anytime you add any new form of gameplay to the game, you're going to have a bunch of questions about how it's going to work, right? And then we know this is like one of the rare moments where they said, oh, this is how jump points are going to work, but we know we're getting it soon. Whereas like normally they say, oh, this is how this gameplay works, and then you're not getting it for a year. So I think it's really big in the fact that we're about to get it.
Exactly.
And and we're going to be using this soon. So the questions are going to be even more important to answer than normally they would be, because more often than not we can wait until another Citizen Con or something.
It's the sort of one I would expected that's the information you'd hear at a Citizen Con, not an ISC. That's why I think it's so big. But clearly people disagree. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so maybe we shouldn't have talked so much about jump points all this episode. They're sick of us talking about jump points. Shut the hell up, they say. Okay.
I would argue against that in terms of most of the questions. Like, we have had a lot of questions that came out of the video from yesterday, but also a lot of the questions in today have been jump point related questions. So now, is that because we've just been talking jump points, or is it?
Maybe I need to do a follow-up poll that says, are you guys bots? Just see if they reply. Yeah.
I mean, I think people are more. I think generally people are more interested when ships are announced, when gameplay mechanics that are like more PvP or PvE type like things are announced. So I think we're asking the question, but it's also like we're asking the question, but we're not thinking of like who's answering the question necessarily, because we're interested in this stuff, but not necessarily everybody is interested in like the mechanics of how jump points are going to work as much as we are. Like I'm super excited for it, but somebody else might be like, give me another combat ship.
Well, it's kind of like what they said in ISC. They want it to be normalized by the end of it, and so for some people, if they're not into that, it's just another transfer medium. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like the discussion on lore. So many people don't give a damn about the lore, but if you understand the lore, you understand your environment, you understand what's happening to you, or why characters are acting X, Y, and Z. Why? Yeah. So
yeah, I just started getting into the lore like a year and a half ago. So that's something that I am new to. I mean, I've heard things throughout the time I've been watching the game, but I just got into the lore and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is actually really cool.
Sorry, Just a Riot just brought up something we can actually talk about. But go ahead, Algared, sorry, while I'm doing this.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, it's one of the things that a lot of people don't get, and the lore is just so people say there is no lore. And you think, how can you say there's no lore? Or the lore is shallow. It is so deep, and the problem with it is it's been drip fed to us. Like there was a classic discussion you had with I think it was Soul Citizens, where someone had asked a question about the information that had dropped on what ship was it? Was it the Terrapin?
I don't know.
But they were talking about the ship, and does that mean that you can't do this anymore? But it was the information had come out. Like the article had come out in Jump Point, like in 2016, when the ship had first been dropped. So it was the drones and the Vulcan. Does this mean that Vulcan won't have drones because of this article? But the article had been written and was part of lore from when the ship was created.
Yeah. I remember that. I actually mentioned that in a video too.
So the fact that article came out at the time the Vulcan was produced or was concepted was just giving you that background history to the development of it. It wasn't saying drones weren't there. In fact, it was emphasizing drones were the thing that made the Vulcan so special. But because it had only originally been put on Jump Point and now is being given to the wider community, people going, oh, it's new. Therefore, does that mean it's old? It's discounting other stuff. You've got to sometimes look at when those things were originally put forward to give you that info. But yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to. Here we go. Found it. Took me a while, but I found it. Just found it there. Right. So, what also was kind of here in that episode was new MFDs, and holy shit, does this not look epic? I don't know about you guys, but Drake being green, I'll take this any day. I think it leans way more into the low tech, the kind of MFDs that are at Grimhex. I think this color leans more into those than the green. Now I know back in the day PCs did have that green, but I think this is more Drake to me. I don't know. I'll just put that out to you guys. Tell me your thoughts. Or you just don't care?
Yeah, that makes total sense. The part of the reason when I originally started, buying ships in the game, I didn't like Drake is because of the interior aesthetic. And so like I was like, I don't think these are going to be for me. But then as we talked about earlier, they have so many ships that generalize in so many areas that they started to grow on me. But this does scream Drake to me, and I could like, because like I can imagine, you know, like like Origin doing like blue everywhere, and then like something's floating, and then there's something holographic, and or maybe RSI doing something like that. But this makes total sense. This looks like, you know, more like military grade. Like when I say military grade, I mean like low military grade. You know,
it's a lot more integrated into the ship. You know, like it kind of fits and hugs and curves. You know. Things like this, though, too, we no longer have a power triangle. They're like power sliders now. I kind of prefer that. I think it's more human intuitive. Like we think more analog than digital. So I think that's kind of cool. The radar, I think, makes a lot more sense. Like the way out's kind of on that 45-degree angle. That reminds me of like an old school submarine. Yeah, there's so much to unpack here. Like, it'll take me probably 10-15 minutes to go through it all. But is there anything that kind of stands out to you guys, or do you need time to analyze it? I think maybe.
I think it looks cleaner to me. It looks cleaner. It feels cleaner.
Well, there's no like I can't put my hand up there because it'll disappear. But like up the top there, like it's just cleaner.
Not as much
and this almost feels like a helmet HUD with the. I love the fact that they've recognized how. I'm going to disappear my arm, but I love the fact that they've recognized how much that is important. That was like the main MFD that I would look at when I was in combat, because I can see where the turrets are pointing. I can see where my fellow multi-crews shooting. I can see the shields. I can see all that type of stuff. That is the most important screen. And having to look down, especially on some ships where they had 4 MFDs and 2 of them were off the screen, like down here, that is bloody amazing. It's like, and you can tell that this is someone's looked at this and analyzed this. And if this is the level they've gone to on just the Corsair, can you imagine if you go back through and customize this HUD for every ship in the game? And it is like this.
Yeah.
Thank God. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm hoping that this is the reason that that 3.24 is taking so long. That they went through and added some stuff that we didn't know was coming, and this is like going to be a surprise or something.
Can Riot? Can you send that to me on Discord? It just makes it easier for me. Let me see.
I do like your comment, Luna Maria, about the didn't like Drake. You're unalive to me. Yeah.
Past tense.
Yeah. You're dead to me. As
okay.
A phrase, but,
So according to Just Riot, this is MFDs from ISC. So yeah, you can see it's been put onto the Caterpillar. Yep, it's got it on the, what ship is that? That is the Vanguard. Okay, interesting. Yep.
Again,
that is the Ares, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
And again, you got the.
Ooh, is that in the ship or is that in the helmet?
That's a really good question.
Because I was just thinking, like,
because look at the radar
combat
too.
helmets.
Look at that is so different. The guns off to one side, radar off to one side is different. So there are standardized things, like this is a part of it, and some of it.
That's a 2-person ship.
No, it's only the one, but that is a. I'm not wrong there. That is an Ares, right? Or is it a Spirit?
Because
wait,
I was thinking Spirit because
the radar. It's too
yeah, that's a C1. It looks like
C1. You reckon? It explain why the radar's in the middle. Yeah, okay. It just looks like a. Oh yeah, there's no gun. Yeah, it can't be the thing because there's no gun. You're right. It is the Spirit. Okay.
I'm just wondering if like, you know, combat has specific like things that you see in your HUD. I'm wondering if this is like the helmet. If you wear a pilot's helmet, do you get this kind of thing on the top left?
Yeah, do a bit extra. Yep, and there's a gladiator look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, Gladius, not a gladiator. But yeah, I get what you mean.
I said gladiator.
You said gladiator, but all right, I'm hearing things.
I heard myself say gladius, but hey, shows how bad it is.
We do it a lot, so I'm not worried, man. Right, Carrick. Yeah, really different. Look at that.
Yep.
Yeah, this is changing.
Hey, look.
Ready to
scan. We have scanning MFDs. That's interesting. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Thank you for this, right? And the one we've seen already. And then back again. Okay, so just to clarify, Drake, Anvil, Crusader, Aegis. Man, Aegis and Crusader are almost identical. So that's like a darker blue, ever so slightly than that. This is almost like a white blue. Then we've got a blue, and then we've got like that goes back to Aegis. And then we've got a green for Anvil. So they all have slightly different hues. God, can you imagine the person going through and just trying to make all the slightly different hues? Obviously, the reddy white one is going to be like the Vandal and the Tavaran. But, okay, interesting. Yep. And I wonder now, because you know how Consolidated Outland and Argo also have orange? I wonder if they're still orange or if they gone yellow, or are they different hues of orange? That's interesting to see.
So Jay Mayhem in YouTube is saying they look like fighters' joint helmet mounted queuing systems that they have in F-16-35s.
Well, again,
I'll nod and say, yep, okay.
Yeah. I pretend I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. but he's right though, because as I said, I've always found that information so important that if you're going to turn your head, you almost like you look at what else is on there, your fuel, and is that distance? 13M.
That's probably.
Yeah. So
how long your fuel will last?
Yeah. So they're probably some of the most important stats. And I can't see anything else that is permanently on screen. Nay, probably where you're located. That's the only thing that I could see. This one here is doing the same thing, so it's got the notifications. So that's pretty standard to your helmet HUD, your health as well. Yeah, I do wonder. I think you might be right. And the fact that, see how this is kind of a little bit off skew, but this is in the same spot. I think you've hit the nail on the head, man. Yeah. I think it might be. And I think this other one here is behind the helmet, see? So that's why it doesn't have it.
That's why you don't see it.
Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head, Mayor.
Yeah. It's a helmet HUD, I reckon. Yeah, makes sense. And they did talk about with different helmets, you would get different data.
We do have
as well.
We do have placeholders though, as well.
Yep.
So I've noticed that in a few of the shots, they just have these three. See? They don't have graphics. Yeah, they don't have graphics for those ones yet. And they are jump point related. So they say things like wake, tuning, and what's the last one? Can't read the bottom one there. It's too blurry for my eyeballs. I could, if I really wanted to, I could get in.
It says something ship, I think.
Yeah, I could get in there and do a contrast and be able to see it, but it's going to take like 5 to 10 minutes in Photoshop, and I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it later and let people do a tweet or something. But yeah. All right, I think that was interesting. Thank you for that, Riot. Appreciate the link, mate. All right, last couple of questions.
All right, so Monster AV. Nope, that one. In answer to your question, the bot was working because I was still seeing questions come through. Raygun972 says, do you have any idea on what is in the sneak peek of this week? Are these thrusters or gears? And he says maybe the Polaris, but very questioning that.
So which one?
I haven't looked.
Who's the question again?
This week's sneak peek. So you'd have to go to the email from.
Okay, yeah, but what was the question? Who wrote? I want to read it myself.
Raygun972.
Do you have an idea of that one? Sneak peek this week. Are the thrusters on the gears? Okay, I will open the email. Get prepared for email noises. It's not yours, it's mine. And we will go have a look.
Oh, I know what I think those are.
This must be a new email because they usually drop about when we do this episode.
Yeah.
So you'll hear a ding ding in a minute because they all just came in.
Yeah, it came in at 5:12.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's literally my last email. Well, I'm just loading it now. Hold on.
Just loading it. What are your thoughts?
It's already up.
It's
fine. Right.
I know what I think, but maybe this is a lot of hopium.
Yeah. Well, what do you think?
Well, don't those look like legs to something that you can wear?
It's not a Titan suit. That was my first thought when I was in the third person, because that is landing gear. See how it comes out? That is definitely landing gear.
And you've got the
it's
land,
just so
and you've got
close
the wings
together.
facing opposite directions, so it's landing gear
Yeah.
of something.
What?
Yeah.
Landing gear deployed.
So
Why
what
is it so close
has,
together though? Isn't that a odd placement for two? Oh, I see why it could be like that.
Yeah, they've just put it so it's the one thing, but they've just rotated the model and rendered it so you can see it fully rendered. It is okay. So right off the bat, I can say it's not the Polaris because the Polarises were more angled. I think it is very clearly a ship that we haven't seen. The only one I can put out there that is known is the Zeus. But
is
again,
it any indication of RSI or manufacturer on there?
It's not the Zeus because see the landing gear there in the image. It's too
big.
It's not, well, it could have changed. Okay, technically it could have changed. But again, that's just enough rope to hang yourself type of thing, and that's what a lot of these sneak peeks are. They send you down this thought experiment, but you instantly get into the weeds. And they love those. They love those because they want you to do that.
My think is the Saber that's coming out, right? Like the new Saber?
Maybe.
No,
that would make sense. Right?
I would say no because it's the same landing gear as the others. Like
Chris
really,
Chris in YouTube says Galaxy or Perseus landing gear. If I had to take a guess for the ship, I'd probably go yes, something like that, because we know they're working on those and we know they're working on the outside. But
so I would go the other way, and I think this is the advanced starter.
But my thought was looking at that, and I can't really tell too much without a size, something to gauge the size. But you've got the triangles and you've got the landing pad stuff that gives you an indication of size, and they look small.
Yeah, because I'm looking at like these little marks here and how close they are. This looks like a small ship. And I would go back, right? And again, this is for someone that's really into this shit and wants to look at it. And I would start comparing it to other small landing gear. And I think you'll probably find that there's probably no other ship that has similar landing gear to this. I am coming back to Crusader and RSI though, just based on the landing gear composition, because they tend to have more chunky stereotypes, but also you get things that break the stereotype. Because again, I can go back to this Zeus one and look how spindly that is. That is not a regular.
RSI.
Yeah, it's different. It's similar to a Connie though, believe it or not, but you get my point, right? You can't just look at landing gear and go, it is exactly this. You're going to be able to narrow it down. Like I could look at this and go, it's not Drake.
FN80 says it looks like the Polaris gears from when he looked at it during Invictus launch week. So
really, he reckons it's Polaris. It looks different to me because the Polaris ones you could walk up, and they were on an angle. And
look, and
I'd have to go back.
Could very well be. It could very well be look like them, but to me, the stuff that you've got on the scene, like the little triangle at the back, the markings on the landing pad, to me make that look too small.
I love it how Santa in YouTube says, so Santa Trucks goes, why are there exhaust vents on the landing gear? No, that's kind of where they disappear into the ship. So they don't need to model those parts. It's very common to delete the polygons because it's something, if you're not going to see them, like you would not normally render it from this. It's obviously, they're up inside the ship, so you're never going to see that part. It's another reason why the landing gear disappears once it's closed behind the doors, because it's got a lot of polygons in it, and it's a part of the culling. It's also why ships like the what was that ship? I believe it was the Buccaneer. They had to move where the gun was originally placed because the landing gear would be too complicated. And it's also why there's rarer ships like the Cutlass where you can still see its landing gear. It doesn't fold the landing gear away. And again, is an older design because it means that those polygons have to constantly be out. And I think the way that they would do it is this is how I would do it, is you would essentially have it fold back up and in, and then do an instant switch to one that doesn't have all the stuff that's hidden on the inside. But again, that's a bespoke system. It's not as simple as just closing a door and having it despawn.
If you're saying it looked like Polaris landing gear, which is an RSI ship, it could be the advanced starter if it was an RSI ship. But Whisper raises the question, Apollo, which is an RSI ship and smaller. So
someone else is saying that as well. I just look.
Yeah, I'm looking through landing gear now. I don't see it.
So, yeah, so I don't know. It's landing gear for a ship.
Yeah.
Ship
As we always say, Algared, they're always just enough to land to hang yourself.
Yep.
Again, because people think it looks kind of Polaris, as we said, it could be Zeus landing gear.
Yep, and Santa Truck says compare the triangle on the pad floor for size reference, and that's what we're doing. And that's why I think it's not a Polaris or a big ship, because that triangle just makes that landing gear just look so small. And so
it is fairly chunky,
ship, but it's chunky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing I noticed.
Like the thing you'll know about the Polaris landing gear, it was really chunky. Like it was beefy. There's just no way to tell exactly what size it is.
And even if it could be the Zeus, and it could be the back landing gear of a Zeus, where the front one's that kind of spindly.
Yep, absolutely.
So
yeah, it could be the Zeus.
It's like you said, enough to hang ourselves.
That's it. The only thing at all that makes me think it's Crusader is the colors, because you'll notice what someone called the vent holes. All right, I'll just use that because it's kind of a good reference. But notice how they've got that same ovally shape as Crusader, but also it's got the black and red colors that you would see on the default things like the Spirit, the Ares, and well, I know the Spirit moved to a white and blue because they've now. Oh yeah, that's true. They're not white. They're not red and black anymore. They're white and blue now. They changed their color. So these are the old Crusader colors. Okay, so that doesn't work anymore. The only other colors that I know that go black and red is Aegis. Is there any others that go black and red? And I put that out to chat as well.
Yep.
God, is that starter ship an Aegis Bearclaw?
Maybe. Like FN8 says, FN8 says they could have, or FN80 says they could have taken Polaris gears and scaled them down to another RSI ship, I guess.
Absolutely. It's really common. A really common strategy when you're modeling human characters, as an example, is you start with a standardized body form, and you always, because otherwise you've got to model the human from scratch every single time. So yeah, if you can take a landing gear, I guarantee you that's what they do. If you've got say you got a C1 Spirit and you're making the MSR, you could take the landing gear from the Spirit and upgrade it into the MSR, and it will save you heaps of work. Absolutely.
Yep. Someone else says Zeus appears to have 3 circular struts.
Yeah.
Others are saying the Guardian's gear could be the Guardian. We have heard of a Guardian, so could be.
Medium-sized ship. Yeah, true. True.
Mist ship or Mirai ship.
Okay, there is some small wording. I'm going to try and zoom in here, but I'm probably going to fail miserably, so just bear with me.
It does look like there's wording on the bottom there, doesn't it?
But I'm assuming they're things like caution and warning. Yeah, I'm just looking for any file, like even half a logo.
Yep.
Would
give it a.
But I reckon when this has been rendered, there was none of the wordage has been put in. Notice how it's kind of fairly bland. So it's got like the stock decals, but eventually at some point they'll have like whatever the manufacturers will put their logo on.
Mirai is red and black, and the Guardian's a Mirai ship or a. So yeah, it could be missed. But
who's red and black? Sorry, Mirai are not red and black.
Got red and black, aren't they? Their branding is red.
Oh, the branding. Yeah,
I think they're red and white, right?
Yeah, red and white.
The chair, I mean, I don't know if the chair is any indicator.
Yep.
But, like it's, like they said, like we said, enough to hang yourself. You go, I just think it looks cool. So.
Yeah, you can see words there on the floor of the hangar too. So that does tell me that this seems to be a smaller ship, not a larger one.
Yeah, the fact that you got the hangar floor, I think, says it's a small ship, and that kills it being a Polaris or I think even a Zeus. It's I'd put it small. Starter ship.
I would say just due to the chunkiness though, that is more likely a medium ship. I would say Guardian is a really great contender. Zeus is a possible contender. I'm leaning towards a medium ship just based on what I'm seeing, and there's several things there, like the size of the cables on the floor, the markings on the floor, the wordage is the width, the size of it. Just like things in the picture don't seem overly huge. They seem more medium to small. I could stretch to a large ship, but it would only be a size 4, not a size size 3, not a size 4. But yeah, so when I say that, I'm talking Constellation at the absolute biggest.
Yeah, look, F180 says, I've got a screenshot of a Polaris Gears with a human in picture if you want to compare.
Yeah, shoot him through on Discord or Twitter. Not Twitter, sorry, Twitch. I can grab him from Twitch. It is annoying, but I can do it. Yeah, and we'll pull it up.
Yep. If you send that screen across, we will have a look.
Unfortunately, if you chuck it in YouTube or Twitch directly, the bot zaps you. So
zaps. Santa Truck says, never heard of a Guardian. The Guardian is a name in game files that has been found.
Think of it, they would have called it the Fat Fury, is probably what you've heard people say. So it's like it's by the people that made the Fury, but it's like medium in. So think Zeus, Freelancer, Cutlass, Spirit, but it's made by Mirai.
And it looks like the ship that was we think it is the ship in the Yellow Curtain, but it looks like a Fury. But that's taking our best.
Here we go. So this is someone concepted it up, and they reckon it looks something like this. So this is a person's representation. This is not CIG stuff, right? Yeah. But it was based on. See, someone's overlaid so that's the video in the background, and someone overlaid the Fury over it and scaled it to fit to roughly to kind of show that it was made by Mirai. But that's the video we're talking about, the yellow one. Me and Algared went all through that with tinfoil hats, like literally.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Hey folks, I gotta drop out, but it was
into that
great.
Tinfoil hats, I got to admit.
All right, Billion. Sorry, you were saying. He interrupted you a bit.
I was saying I got to drop out, but it was great talking to you guys.
Yeah, we're about to wrap up anyway. Yeah, well,
we've got a dozen more questions.
In
fact, we've got 3, 4.
Hang on, I'll reach out after stream, man. I'll leave you some messages and see if we can hook up a time for the weekend. We usually record tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And but we'll work something out with you, either morning or evening for us, and we'll work out what's with you. So I'll drop some times. I'll drop you a couple of windows, and you just tell me what works better for you. All right. You have a good one. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Later.
Bye.
Thank you, Billy. Lovely seeing you.
All right, next one, Algared.
Right, the next one is by Hook 2005, and their question is, how do you feel about the new jump gates? Take all ship sizes except the temporary gates.
As long as it doesn't affect gameplay, I think it actually enhances it with what they've done. Yeah, I think they've had other gameplay considerations that have come in, and that's why they've made the changes.
Yep. The next question is again from Hook 2005, and it's, do you think the raft will be limited to 32 or 16 SU cargo boxes?
Yes, because it's a sky crane.
Yep.
We have not seen the full functionality of the raft, in short. And again, you can, when it was on the PTU, it was literally labeled. It had a label on the console, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like operator something or crane or something operator. I can't remember what it was. I don't want to put words in my mouth because I can't remember what it was. But you can see that one person flies the ship, and one person goes and deploys and loads up, and again, it's got 2 beds on it, right? So it's a teamwork thing where one person's moving the crane and one person is moving the ship, and so they go pick up 3 boxes, fly over, drop them off, come back, do and repeat. It's a 2-man operation ship, and again, if it was just a cargo ship, you don't need 2 people.
Yep. F180 says they sent the image by Twitch Whisper.
Yeah, because you would just park, and you would then go pick up the boxes, and you would only just pick up the boxes. But the fact that it's got 2 people, it just does not make sense to have 2 people in that situation. All right. All right. So this is, I don't know what we're getting into here, but let's have a look. I don't know what we were sending in again. Oh, this is Polaris landing gear. Okay, hang on.
Polaris landing gear with person to give size.
Wait, is there more than just this one image, or is that just the? Okay, there's other thing. Oh shit! What have I done? I don't want to look at pottery.
Oh, you are.
Oh, what the fuck? What are we going into now? All right, I've gone to Village Cinemas for some reason. That's my local cinema. This is a terrible image. No offense, but what the hell is going on? Twisters. I might have to go see Twisters. Right. I'm trying to zoom in on it. That's why it's stuff on it. Right. Yeah. Those. Yeah. There's no way they're Polaris landing gear. Look how chunky they are. Where the hell was it?
And how big they are against a person.
And they're definitely a lot wider. Man, I would argue that they are Zeus landing gear. I can definitely see colorations, but also knowing that this is a Dorito ship and the Zeus is a Dorito ship.
Yeah.
I would bet money that it's the new Zeus landing gear. And they've just changed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, not Polaris. They're not Polaris landing gear.
I'm going to call it now. I think they're Zeus landing gear. Yeah.
So based on what F80 said, they look, and I could say, they look like the Zeus ones, but I think they're too.
Yep.
Sorry, they look like the Polaris ones, but they're too small. So you go, okay, what RSI ships?
Well, you know the lore, Algared. The Dorito ships are newer, are they not?
Well,
so again, similar stylings, similar manufacturing processes.
Yes and no, because the original Zeus is a very old chip, which was Dorito.
But this is Zeus 2.0.
This is the new Zeus, which is again at 3. So the Dorito shape is not old, is not new.
But the styling is...
It's been revamped. So,
for example, I would not expect the Perseus to have anything like this landing gear because it's the older design. But yes, it still has the triangle shape. Yes.
Yeah.
But my point is taken. Yes.
I would expect, and even if you take the Zeus having that spindly landing gear at the front.
Yep.
I think these are more likely to be the rear landing gear of the Zeus.
Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah.
So. So I don't think it changes anything. So yeah.
Yeah. What they could do though is essentially take this and just put it on a different angle and be the front one as well.
Yeah.
You know,
they could do that as well.
Things do change from concept, and I will tell you, you can go back and look at concept of landing gear and then look at landing gear in the finals, and they have definitely changed. It's actually one of the things that changed the most because it literally doesn't have that much of effect. It has no effect on gameplay. Again, it's a foot. Like it just doesn't. Yeah. So it's one of the things that changed the most between concepts. Again, I would get you to look at the Carrack concept and then go look at the Carrack landing gear. Drastically different. It essentially lands on 3 giant leg stilts, and it had nothing to do with the shield parts. And now their legs are integrated into the shields. Completely cool and really awesome.
And you know, people hated that when they changed the Carrack's landing gear. They liked the spindly look, but that was made for several reasons. If it was still so as high, it meant the ramp had to be a lot longer and a lot bigger angle.
Sorry, so I have turned off the bot, Jose, but Jose says, why would a ship need downward posting thrusters on their landing gear? It's not thrusters, dude. It's just cold. It's cold. I assume he's talking about what someone called the vents. They're just cold. Because you're never going to see them, because you're going to imagine there's a ship. So from this, wait, I got to do it so they can see. So from this point up is ship. So you'd only ever be looking up at this up here. So you're never ever going to see this, right? So that's why it's culled off, because you're never ever going to see it. And to optimize it for the game, if you think about it, because this is curved, it's got more polygons in it, right? So you got 2 polygons that do the square there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or however many are in that curve. So they take them out because it's just a thing that you don't need to render, and it optimizes. Yeah, okay, cool.
They make sense. They realize
cool.
They see it.
Yeah, cool. Well, I hadn't spelled it out, and in spelling it out now makes more sense to those that didn't know. Anyway. All right, 2 questions to go. Let's go, Algared.
Anypen says, the transient jump points, will the entry and exit points appear in random places in the system? Or will they appear in static places, just not always be on?
I think it'll be set by CIG, however they want it to do it. I think it's a gameplay tool, as the one in the video was in the Rings of Yella.
Yeah, as I was going to say, you know, the one in the video was in the Rings of Yella, but I expect there'll be a certain range to the jump point, so you know.
I don't agree with that. I think it's a gameplay tool. They'll do whatever they want.
Well,
it's essentially, if you think of what jump, hang on, if you think of what a jump point is, it's a load screen.
Yep.
You can do whatever you want.
And if you're doing your transient jump points to the system that you're doing, you're going to have those transient jump points close to that system, or you're going to have jump points that go all over the place to anywhere. They can do either.
They can do whatever they want. It's a game. That's my point. Yeah.
Can do whatever they want,
but if you want to restrict it and make it make sense, yes, absolutely, it should only be the next system across, because that's kind of the way it works. It's an integrated network system of jump points. Yes.
What I heard them saying was you'd have their main jump point and then the transient jump points off that were kind of linked to that, but were sometimes open, sometimes closed. Now I could have misheard. I could have just been hearing what I want to hear. But if I think you are misconnecting two separate things. So there was the branching paths, so it's kind of like the shotgun approach, and then there are separate jump points entirely, which are the transient ones. Let's let me finish. If they were talking about the transient ones being linked to the main one, then they have to be close to within a range. If they're just random jump points that go to anywhere, then that becomes a different game.
So in the video, they literally say, but you don't know where they're going to come out at.
Yeah, but you don't know where in the system they're going to come out in.
Or do you not know, or do you
don't know what system they're going to come out in. And
exactly. And I think, and again, I think you've connected two dots between the branches and that. And I think like jump wormholes in real life, you don't know where they're going to go initially. Right, so that's part of the exploration element. So I think they're not. Yeah, we can agree to disagree on this one. But from what we're seeing it from different perspectives. But from what I heard, they are not connected. They are two separate jump points because they also have two different names: transient and permanent.
Yeah. So the permanent.
But you think they're all connected, as in they're just jump points that are connected to each other. I think they're completely two separate jump points. Why they have two separate different names: transient and permanent.
And I'm also thinking of the way you've got your systems connected. And I think if you have a transient jump points that suddenly take you to the other side of the empire or the other side of the world, then it's kind of
I think this one confirms to me it's for the Zeus, because it's got that front knee guard.
Yep. But so they can do whatever they like with the jump points. But yeah, take with that what you will.
Back and
too many questions to, I think, really get an answer. Jose, thank you for that super chat. He says, appreciate your shows. Keep it up. Thank you. So that's that one. And our last question is from Carlos, who Carlos says, what kind of mics are you recommending for podcasting and streaming? We recommend Rode.
Yeah, generally. It does have some changes on it. It is not exactly the same. It is very similar though.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's the Zeus.
It's certainly not Polaris because it's too big, but yeah, you could see.
Yeah, so for example, there's really small differences here, and I need a better back shot because that's. So I'm looking at things up here, but that could be a part of the door, not a part.
But even that knee guard is there.
Yeah, but they've got really similar things, but like there's just certain little things that change. They are very similar.
Chris is a definite RSI styling.
Yep.
So I think regardless of what a ship is, it's an RSI ship.
Yeah, I think we can, as we always say, I've said like 20,000 times this episode, it's just enough rope to hang yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, just like the jump point information, just enough rope to hang ourselves.
Yep. So yeah.
So
hope you guys kind of, I don't know, we go into that stuff, and it's the same thing when me and Algared we're tired, right? After 3 hours, that's why we get feisty. And this happens when we do our discussions too. We sometimes just go, right, just agree to disagree, because there is no, Algared's correct and I'm correct. There is no information that is indefinite. Because again, if they leave one little, if they're just slightly too vague, you can take it two ways.
You can take either way, and it can go either way, and so it's just a matter of
well the other way to look at it is the advantages of what I'm saying is they can do more from a gameplay perspective, but then like Algared does with Lore locks things down, right? So it gives you a story to follow, and I always fight back against Lore because it restricts what you can make, right? So I'm not saying I'm right, and I'm not saying Algared's right. I'm just saying that if it went my way, it gives them more to do design wise. But again, time will tell.
And it depends, they in both ways, they could have most of them are linked to them, and every so often they want to open a new jump point to a new location. Hey, bang, transient jump point, and then maybe eventually you find a permanent jump point that goes. So you never know. But if you ever find a permanent jump point, you are going to make a mint when you sell it, if you sell it. So anyway,
I got to tell you something after stream. Please remind me.
Okay, I'll try and remind you. Hey, X, up at the end of the stream.
No, not now. After the stream.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. All right. I've had a really good episode. I've really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed having Billy on too. It was really great to always have a different perspective. Same thing when Expat came on. I'd also put this out to you guys. Is there someone you would like us to sit down and have a discussion with? We could possibly get to come on the show. I'm not going to be able to get Trump and Biden to come on next week and have a discussion with us. But you get my point, right? If there's someone that you would like us to bring on, please let us know, and we'll try and set that up for you.
Or someone who would like to be on.
Yeah, especially someone Star Citizen related. Yeah.
Yeah. Some Star Citizen YouTube creator who would like to be on.
That would want to talk to us as well. Friendly. I don't want someone that's going to come on and just rip us to pieces, and vice versa. We would not want to rip them to pieces. So not that I think there's many people that would not get along with Algared.
Well, I'd like to think that.
Okay.
People are suggesting DG60.
Man, okay. DG360, I have tried to get him for so many shows. He's just too busy, and he prioritizes his family. I would have him on here in an absolute no question.
I think
you get him to come on, and I'll have him instantly. But trying to set up a time with him is a bloody nightmare.
Yeah.
And I ended up giving up because back when Badges was with us, we tried. We set up a month in advance. It got to the day before he cancelled, and that happened 3 times over 3.5, 3 to 4 months. And so I left it after that.
Sometimes it's just too hard in terms of time zones.
Yeah.
Who's
the other one? Farrister. Yeah,
Farrister, he's an I think.
I know who Farrister is. I don't think I've ever talked with him though. So if someone's got someone's got some contact hours, no problemo.
Farrister and Paul were commentators for the very first Crust Cup.
Okay, well maybe Paul might be able to put us in contact.
Way back in 20.
Do you have contact details for him?
Probably not anymore.
Well, you know him, so I'm gonna leave it with you. You can set that one up, lazy shit. I'll let you do that one. Anything that I can dictate out to him, I will do so because I do way more work than he does. Yeah.
Because I'm a lazy.
He's not lazy. Got
more
free time.
We've done stuff with Farrister in the past. Well, we've had Farrister. I'm speaking from Crux Cup saying we've had Farrister do stuff with us in the past. It'd be good. Wicked Wookie is someone else there. Santa Crux is tossing up. So yeah, we've had Woody Vids.
Yeah, I think we'd have him on again in a heartbeat too. Alrighty, so I think we're going to raid Angry PC Tech today. He's playing another game, but he is doing a streamathon. There is not, because I just can't find anyone that is. The
question for Angry PC Tech is, why aren't you playing Star Citizen?
Yeah. Why aren't you playing Star Citizen? Yeah, that's a good question. I'm just having another look to see if I can find someone that we know, or is there anyone that you guys want to raid? Let us know. I can't. I feel like I'm sitting here burning air while I'm talking to you guys. I can't find anyone that I really know unless they're bigger, and I always try to not to be rude, but I try to raid down so they get brought up, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So yeah, unless they're one of the other Inforunners, that is. Right, so I'm gonna raid in.
To try over other games.
No, really? No, I played a new game last night, Algared, that I know you would like because it's based on D&D. So I'll talk to you about that too. It's called Dungeon. It's free, Dungeonborn. So yeah. All right then. Twitch say goodbye to YouTube. You could blah 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 blah. I can't even speak English. YouTube say goodbye to Twitch. Have a good one.
Bye,
we'll
Twitch.
see you. Bye. And they're gone. Now we're talking about them behind their back. Right. Cool.
Yeah. Now Twitch is gone.
Yeah. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you to everyone that went that extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. I keep trying to say a thing about the bell, and I always forget it. Make sure you turn on all notifications because apparently it's got like different levels, like some Premiere, it's got all these different ones. So yeah. Anyway,
and the analytics still is about 50% of people. It's interesting because most people find that 50% of the people who view their channels aren't subscribers. So if you've been here once, twice, or 3 times, and you haven't clicked that button, you clearly like it. So hit it.
It does help us out. But again, we get a lot of viewers and we don't have the biggest subscriber count. We're not really worried about it too much, but yeah, again, you want to do it, you do it, you do you. I've always been blasé about it because it's also why I don't ask people to subscribe at the start a lot because we do this for passion. So yeah. All right then, he's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.